So, welcome to the Fe+male Tech Heroes Conference. My name is Ingeloe Stol. Next to me, Hilde de Vocht. And thank you for being here at our fourth Fe+male Tech Heroes Conference.
Yoo-hoo! And let's start with a short introduction of who we are. Fe+male Tech Heroes is an initiative by High Tech Campus Eindhoven that aims to raise awareness on gender equality and diversity in the tech industry. And we started as a platform for women in tech, but in recent years we evolved into a community to create more diversity and equality in the tech world. Yes.
Exactly. And we do this by, for example, highlighting role models on stage, such as today, but also in interviews. So we're always on the lookout for interesting individuals that can want to share their story and their insights on diversity. We also organize events like this one, also dinners, sometimes mentoring sessions, and also recently an event for male allies, a topic you will hear more about also today. And last but not least, we really try to encourage tech companies to embrace diversity to create that sustainable future. So we're actually always looking for a way to grow. And that fits really well with the theme of today, Hilde.
Yes, because the theme of today is Dare to Grow. So today we want to grow together.
Exactly. We want to inspire you to reach new heights, right?
Yes, and our speakers will provide valuable insights on leadership, technology, career growth, and allyship through keynote speeches, panels, and breakout sessions. And this conference is not only about gaining insights and advancing your own career. By attending this conference, you also support a good cause, right?
Exactly, because this year we will donate a significant amount of the ticket sales to the VHTO. Yay! And they're here. So the VHTO is a Dutch foundation and an expertise center that really empowers equality and diversity in STEM, engineering and IT, for example, by bringing role models to schools. And before we begin, by introducing you to them further and also to their director, Sahar, let's take a look at the program.
Yes, and as you can see, this morning we are focusing on leadership with Laurie Glover of MIT during her talk, She Who Dares Wins. And we also dive into a panel on how collaborative leadership is reshaping business and hear the story of startup entrepreneur Dan Jing Wu.
The plenary session will be recorded, so that's good to know. And there's also a photographer, Floris, maybe you can wave. If you've been to the conference, you've known him. These are our famous photographer. And Vinal, who will make videos. So if you do not want to be in the picture, that's also fine. Find them or find us, and we will make sure to keep you out of them. Thank you.
So, let's get started. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah, are you ready?
I'm also ready.
Okay, good.
Yes. So then, let's start with the director of the VHTO, Sahar Yadegari.
Sahar, welcome.
Thank you.
On stage. How does it feel?
I'm so excited to be here and so happy and really, really honored to be in front of all of you amazing people. So a little nervous as well, if I may confess.
I think that's really normal. I heard more speakers say that for this morning.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think it's good.
That's good.
It's okay, right, to be a bit nervous? Yeah, okay. So welcome to the stage and thank you for contributing to this donation to the VHTO. So let's get to know you and the foundation.
Yeah.
Tell us, what does the VHTO do?
Yeah. So our mission is to increase the number of girls and women in STEM. And our motto is fix the system, not the girls. And what we mean by that is that when you're a girl growing up as early as kindergarten, you will find all types of invisible obstacles on your way that make it more difficult for you to find or to pursue a career in technology or in technical fields in a broad sense. And luckily, there's a lot of scientific research on those obstacles, what they look like, what they are, and also how to address them. And our role as VHTO is to help support schools, teachers, parents, universities, employers, whoever wants to hear, help them support and apply these pieces of knowledge to really fix the system and make sure that we have an education system that offers really equal opportunities to every child to pursue their interest in technology, regardless of their gender.
Well, that's a fantastic mission, and we fully support it, of course. You also brought a video which really symbolizes this, right?
Yeah. I think maybe we can have a short look at it, and then I will explain a bit more about it.
Okay.
This afternoon, we're going to draw people doing different jobs. And the first job we're going to draw is a firefighter.
Have a think in your head what a firefighter looks like.
What's your firefighter called?
Mine's called Firefighter Gary. Firefighter Star. Firefighter Simon. He's big and strong. He's got a big helmet on.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Next, we're going to draw a surgeon.
Have you thought of a name for your surgeon? Jimbo. He's a brain surgeon. I think he would wear a stethoscope. He gives you medicine.
That's his ambulance. Okay, next, we're going to draw a fighter pilot.
This is his jet plane. He rescues people. He likes to do stunts in the air and stuff.
Okay, now who would like to meet these people for real?
Yeah!
My name's Tamsin and I'm a surgeon in the NHS.
My name's Lauren and I'm a pilot in the Royal Air Force.
My name's Lucy, I'm a firefighter in the London Fire Brigade.
So who wants to know how to do an operation?
Who's putting them on?
Try my stethoscope.
We put this in here. There you go. Now you're a proper fighter pilot.
So into your ears. Can you hear that? Yeah. It's really good. It's much better, it's much better than my kids' one.
Interesting, right? Yeah. So we started laughing, but it's shocking,
sad.
of course.
It's sad. It's shocking, but it's still needed. It's necessary. So this technique is actually quite well known, and we've adjusted this to the Dutch context, and also particularly for technical roles. So women like yourself will go to a Dutch school, but before they go in, the teacher will ask them to draw an engineer. And we make the names of the professions more specific or more accessible to kids. And then the children will draw that particular profession and they will give a name. And then after the drawing exercise, the role model comes in. And they have a discussion. And what's important is that they also have a discussion. So it's about breaking gender stereotypes for the girls who are there, but also for the boys in the classroom. But what's also important is bringing their profession closer to the children. So really actually demystifying technology and letting them see what they do on a daily basis. And that's really fun and I enjoy doing that.
To see what you can become,
yeah, exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And how come that the stereotypes in the Netherlands, they're so strong when we talk about technology?
That's a tough question. There are a number of stereotypes about technology. The first, and I was just talking with Laurie about this, and she said, I'm too social, I cannot work in technology. So that's one of the stereotypes, right? Young people thinking of themselves as being social and creative, and thinking that, that there's no place for me in technology. Another one is really wanting to contribute to societal impact, doing something meaningful in society, and not seeing how that fits with technology. And that's obviously, we know that to be false. But I think the most harmful stereotype that's out there is the gender stereotype. So there was a group of researchers, American researchers, who did a study on stereotypes, gender stereotypes around science, and the relationship between that and the number of women working in STEM in that country. And science was translated as physics, mathematics, engineering, etc. So to what extent do you think of men when you hear those words? That was basically the question. And the exact words of the researchers was, the Netherlands is a dramatic example of having relatively high scores on gender equity in general, but being number one in terms of a really high score on gender stereotypes and science. So here in the Netherlands, we have a very strong connection between men and those subjects, physics, mathematics, engineering, etc. And when you say this to an audience, no one really expects this, and this is not the image that we have of ourselves as a country.
No, we always think the Netherlands were very progressive and everything, but in this we're really not.
No, we're really lagging behind, but this is, the implications of a stereotype like this are quite powerful. It means that in practice, because we're also programmed to think of men when it comes to technology, it is more difficult to identify or to recognize quality if it's a female engineer, or if it's someone who is not a man and standing in front of us and doing the exact same thing.
Why is this so strong, this connection?
Yeah, well, it's a chicken and egg situation, if you will. If there are, the number of women in STEM is low, there are no role models, it's very difficult to tackle those stereotypes. But if there are no role models, then the new generation will not go into technology. So it's a cycle that we're in. And it reinforces it constantly. So, but the thing is that we can't get out. It's not a law by nature that it's designed like this. And in the Netherlands, we have changed this in the past. So there are other professions that used to be completely male-dominated, such as teacher, and are now completely female, which is also another story in itself. But so I think the good news is that we can change things.
That's good. And recently you also wrote a report with advices to make sure that children from high schools can really choose also for the non-stereotypical professions and how to help them with that. So can you give your main conclusion of that report? How can we make that happen? Dutch students in high school have to choose a track at a very early age, somewhere between 13 to 15. And choosing a track has influence for the type of study that you can choose later on. So you will not be able to do a technical study if you don't have the right subjects in that particular track that you've chosen. And we wanted to see if every kid has the equal opportunities to choose a technical track. To make it really brief, we had a number of findings. One is that there is very little time and resources for the guidance that students need to choose this track. And and obviously we know, and I should say this, the Dutch schools are overwhelmed. The shortage of teachers is substantial. So that's something that's really a factor that we need to take into account. But having said that, if time and resources is so few, then students have to rely on what they already know. And if they have never met a female engineer or a male nurse, then it really becomes difficult to explore those paths. But moreover, we also found in this study that teachers themselves suffer from biases. So we did a survey among teachers and we presented them with a case. This student has grade X for physics and grade Y for mathematics and wants to do a technical track. What would you advise this student? And in half of the questionnaires, the student's name was Thomas, a male name, and in the other half of the questionnaires, the student's name was Anouk, a typical Dutch female name. What we found out that in the case of Thomas, 44% of the teachers gave a positive advice, but in the case of Anouk, that was only 24%. And
we did the study, my colleague is here, Rian, she helped us do the study. It was only, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So this is
Really
still
recent, yeah.
very recent, still out there. Yeah.
And do you think, I mean, we all have bias. Teachers, they're really trying their best, we know that.
Yeah.
So how do we help them, and are they open for change?
They are. They absolutely are. So teachers are really doing the best they can. And when you present them with this type of evidence, they are shocked. And but they are human, and they are part of our social environment. And if you see that the stereotypes about women and technology are so strong in our society, you cannot expect from teachers to not be influenced by that. But this also means that there is a lot to gain from raising awareness with teachers about their own biases and showing them how the quality of education can improve if our expectations of students are not based on their gender.
And so you also now have programs to help those teachers.
Yeah.
What do you do with them?
Well, all types of workshops. Maybe we will show this video clip as a conversation starter, and then we present the evidence. We go through the research. We do exercises, really testing out all formats that are out there to get the conversation going. And usually those workshops are really quite successful because it's not that they're not willing to change this. It's that we as a society believe that we have already fixed this problem. It's not out there anymore.
Yeah, and we first have to start with awareness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have now 300 high-tech role models.
Yeah.
How can we engage in your mission?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're a role model on a daily basis. So in every encounter that you have with young people, you are a role model. And that's already, I think, very important. There are a lot of organizations with which you can register and be an active role model. You can register with us. Obviously, we would be really happy. We are particularly looking for Dutch-speaking role models as well. Also, role models with a vocational background who are underrepresented in our database. We have a group of 2,000 women, so we're really grateful for their involvement and effort, and maybe some of you are already part of that group. Another thing is, if you have access to schools, convincing them to enroll with us. It's free for schools, but getting a school ready to actually participate is also quite challenging.
You also have to
Yeah, absolutely.
engage them
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
And then help us fund this work, and you're already doing that by buying a ticket for this session, so I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So later today in the career breakout, you will also give a workshop on how to be a role model. And at the end of the conference, we will announce the donation that we, as part of the conference, as the participants, will give to your wonderful foundation. Sahar, Yadegari, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ingeloo and Sahar. Coming up next, we have a very special guest. I already mentioned her name. She came all the way from Boston. Laurie Glover is the Managing Director of Global Strategic Alliances at MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. In her keynote, She Who Dares Wins, Women Leading Fearlessly in Tech, she will share her inspiring insights drawn from years of experience leading in the tech industry. Give her a very, very warm welcome, Laurie Glover.
Thank you. Clicker. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. This is such an amazingly inspirational group. I just love it. This is wonderful. So yes, the title of my talk is She Who Dares Wins. So I'm going to share a few things with you. Let me see if I can get this moving. Okay, this is a really interesting quote. I want every little girl who's been told she's bossy to instead be told that she has leadership skills. Do you know this quote from Sheryl Sandberg? How many of you were told you were bossy? Oh, I love it. It's a lot of leadership skills in the room. I love it. It's great. Fantastic. So another thing that I'm sure we have all faced quite a bit is being the only woman in the room. Now, this is really great because we're seeing a sea of female faces. I love it, and we're all in tech. But how many have also been the only woman in the room? Thank you. Yes, most everyone. I can share so many stories about this. And over the years of I'm small in stature, being small, being on the young side, being all of that, one of the most interesting ones that struck me was in my position at MIT, I often host delegations of governments, CEOs, large-scale companies, and I talk about artificial intelligence and everything in that space, be it cybersecurity, robotics, all of it. I'm not a researcher. I say I'm a matchmaker and a translator. I understand the deep tech that's going on and how business can use it. So I was preparing for one of my talks to a very senior large governmental delegation from another country, and my technician was having trouble with my slides. And this man was coming, because I was trying to help, saying, no, this is what's going on. He came to me, very mad at me, pointing at his watch. You need right now to go get my speaker. I said, excuse me, sir, I am your speaker, and as soon as my technician finishes this, I will begin. So, yes, being the only woman in the room. Yes. So, today we're going to talk about women leading fearlessly in tech, and I have 3 points that I am going to cover in my talk. 1, women were leading fearlessly in tech before tech was even a term. So, we're going to start with that. Leadership. Being a leader isn't necessarily being the boss. You know, it's really important to understand. You can all be leaders. You all are leaders. You're amazing. This group is incredible. And be fearless. Really be fearless. You have absolutely nothing to lose, and just go out and do it. So, women leading fearlessly in tech before it was tech. Okay, these are some of my favorite stories that I'm sharing with you. Does anyone know who Hedy Lamarr is? Okay, couple people. She was Austrian-born, a very famous American film star of Hollywood's golden age in the 30s and the 40s, when it was all about glamour and these movie stars, which is everything. But probably didn't know about her as a movie star, but some of us do, and if you like old Hollywood, you certainly remember. But what is really interesting is she actually invented an entirely new communication system based on signal hopping. She was also a pianist, and her mother was a concert pianist. And she and a friend at a concert realized they were synchronized pianos. She came up with the idea that, well, wait a second. What if we synchronized the signal hopping? And it actually, during World War II, could have been used to help the bombers not be traced or anything like that. She was actually granted a patent on this, but the US Navy decided ultimately not to use it during World War II. The really cool thing is, this technology that she invented, this glamorous, amazing movie star that no one even knows she did, is the basis of how we do GPS, wireless, Bluetooth today. She's not known for this at all, and she was all by herself inventing this amazing technology, and here we are today indebted to her. So she was awarded the Electronic Frontier Award in 1997, and she's the first woman ever to receive Invention Convention's Bowlby NAS Spirit of Achievement Award. And yes, she will always be known as a glamorous, incredibly beautiful Hedy Lamarr, star of Hollywood, but she's also known a little bit now, and hopefully more, as the mother of Wi-Fi. So yay, Hedy Lamarr. So, moving on from World War II, after that, we moved into the space race. I don't know, does anyone know this book, The Rise of the Rocket Girls? Another thing, I like this, you're right on my right. Okay, this book took place at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Caltech, and the women that were the computers of Caltech. So in post-World War II, the US military tech moved into the space race. You know, how are we gonna get a rocket into space? The work was at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at the Caltech campus in Southern California. And the people at JPL needed really, really precise calculations to be able to figure out the trajectory of the rockets, where they were going to go, how we were going to explore space. There were no computers at the time. The people who actually did this really, really high-level intense math were human computers. That's where the word actually came from. The men were the engineers. They were the astronauts. They got all the fame and the glory of the space race. But really, it was really incredible, intelligent, and driven women that got them there. One of the women was Barbara Canright. She was a typist and also a math whiz. But at the time, she also became the very first computer at Caltech. Remember, this was actually a job, a human job was a computer. And soon she brought other smart women into the computer pool of being able to do the calculations that we were able to send rockets into space and do everything that actually made many space explorations possible. They lacked an engineering degree. They never had an opportunity to get an engineering degree, but it didn't stop them. They were very smart, they were very driven, and most of all, they supported each other. And without them, things like the Voyager program and the Viking mission to Mars never would have happened. So they were amazing, amazing women. So some examples of leadership. No, these women were not CEOs. They didn't start companies, but they were leaders. They were incredible leaders. And what do they all have in common? We'll say a few things. Intelligent, curious mind. You know, that is the first thing. They were curious. Hedy Lamarr, Howard Hughes was a friend of hers, actually used to give her electronic boards to play with in her trailer while she was making films because she just loved electronics and was trying to invent things. And very, very curious mind. Be able to see a vision, see what's possible, think beyond what's right in front of you today, but what can be, and that's really important. Determination, someone telling you you don't have the right degree, you don't have enough, no, you gotta keep going for what you want. Determination is so important. Allies, all of these people, they did have allies, and we talk about Fe+male Conference. Men are allies, women are allies. It's so incredibly important. I talked about Barbara Cantright being the first computer. Well, her husband was an engineer, and her husband was on the rocket team. But he knew how talented and smart and amazing she was. And because of that, she got the opportunity. And I'm going to say later on is make sure you recognize the people around you and give them opportunity, because that's how we all grow. And leadership comes at all levels. It's not just being the boss. And I hope that by showing you examples of these women, Hedy Lamarr and Barbara Cantright and the women of the computer pool, that they were absolute trailblazers and amazing people, but they were leaders. They weren't CEOs, but they were leaders. So being leaders and just being the boss. So we go talk about some leadership qualities, talk about being an excellent communicator. And I always say this with my team too, is it's not just being able to stand up and talk to a group of people. It's being able to really understand what someone is saying, really pay attention to them and think about what they're saying, and not always being the one waiting to talk, but listening. That comes in later. Inspire others. Think about how you can help someone else become better, how you can help someone else rise up in their field. Responsibility. This is a big one. Own it. No excuses. If you make a mistake, own it. Have the responsibility. And we say the buck stops here, but own it, good and bad. Give credit where credit is due. This is a really important one. In my personal belief, is if someone on your team does a great job or a colleague does a great job, give credit, give them credit. Let them own it. Let them have that moment. They deserve it. A vision, I said that before. Listen, I said that before too. And listening is very, very important. Most of all, don't feel failure. Failure really is an opportunity to grow. You learn from your mistakes. I would say the only failure is not learning from a mistake and not learning from something that went wrong. But failure is an opportunity to grow. And taking a seat at the table, not along the wall. Oh, I say this to younger people all the time. You're invited to a meeting. You're there for a purpose. You have something to say. Sit at the table. Be heard. Listen. It's important to sit at the table, not shrink against the wall. Be present, be there, let your thoughts be known. It's very important to take a seat at the table. And again, seek out allies. I've talked a lot about allies. Seek out allies. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the details about women in tech and some of the quotes that we're working with. So the percentage of women employed across job sectors in the US has reached 47%. Yeah, I'm from the US, so it's a little US focused, but in the 5 tech giants, only 34% are women. Male allyship is enormously helpful in building a culture that respects women. 35 years ago, so this is, the 80s or so, women earned roughly a third of computer science degrees. By 2016, that had fallen to less than 20%. Why are we losing people? It's a pretty scary thing. This one, women don't typically ask for promotions. A lot of women say, well, my good work will speak for myself. People will recognize me. No, everyone's really busy and working with things, ask for promotions. And why do so few women reach the top? This is a huge problem. The percentage of women in tech leadership roles has fallen to 28%, according to DDI's global leadership. And on boards and leadership boards across the globe, it's even worse. I want to say it's like 5% or something like that. So, and I was talking to Sahar about this, the leaky pipe. Why? With the statistics of women going into college and getting, why don't women make it to the top? And I'm can't here to say, talk about fixing the system and not the child, but here are some things we can talk about. We all talk about pipeline, about getting people into the group and be able to, get them through the ranks, but in the US, 39.1% of women completed 4 more years of college. Now, back in the 40s, when the Rocket Girls were doing their leadership, that was 3.8% of women had a college degree. So, okay, that's great. In Europe, at bachelor's, master's levels, women outnumber men across the board. And in 2022, the ratio of women to men was 2 to 1. But of women who go into tech, half drop out by the age of 35. Why? So things like Sahar and her group are doing is amazing and really, really important. We need to do things to fix this. Why are women dropping out? Why are they not moving up in the tech leadership roles? Things that can be done to fix it are mentors, of course, recognize the talent in others. I've said that before. But this one I want to spend a minute on is this: if you take a career break, step back but not out. There's lots of books out there that warn women, oh, don't take any time off, you can't do that. And I was having these conversations with my cousin from Italy. It's really important, especially in tech. It moves so fast. There's a lot of things in our lives we want to take time for, and life is full with family and everything. If you step back, that's fine, but stay engaged with your network, keep learning, stay connected. It's the difference between stepping away and stepping off. And I can't say enough, life is full of everything, but always stay connected. Build confidence in yourself as well as others. Do what you can to help others, build them up, and let them take an opportunity. And again, failure is only an opportunity to learn. So help others, understand. And teach the next generation what it means to be a leader. I loved your video. That was amazing. I had a similar thing I was going to share. I have 2 boys. So I was not blessed with daughters, but I have 2 boys. And it's very important. You boys also learn from a strong mom. So I'm also a sailor. I loved sail. And in the US, we talk about Christopher Columbus discovered the United States, and the Pinta, the Santa Maria. Anyway, 2nd grade, all the children had to draw the boat and the person sailing the boat. And I walked into 2nd grade parent-teacher night, and I see the whole wall of boats with little people steering the boat through the waves. There's one down in the lower corner. There's a woman in a blue dress with long black hair. Which do you think my son's was? So it's funny. And pay it forward. Help, mentor, give internships. Every summer, I hire interns at MIT to give students, the next generation, an opportunity to understand, the working world, make connections. It's so important. Expose the younger generation to everything and help them build that network. So, at the end of this, I say, be fearless. I don't know if you've seen this commercial before. I love it because it really is inspirational. And I can't play it from here, so I'm hoping in the back they'll hit the play button. And there you go.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged. When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical, or rational, or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy.
Officials tried to pull her off the course.
A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking, crazy. Coaching an NBA team, crazy. A woman competing in a hijab, changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more. Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
Perfect. All right, and that was it. So be fearless. They say crazy. I don't know if you've seen that commercial before, but I love it. It is the power of what women can do. So be fearless. It's good?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. You can stay for a while, Laurie.
Sure,
because I give you a few minutes to prepare your questions for Laurie, because I have a great catch box here, which I can throw into
I
the
love
public.
that.
Yes.
All right.
Oh yeah, Ingeloe can do this for me. Thank you, Laurie, for sharing your insights and being such a good example of a female tech hero.
Thank you.
To touch a little bit upon the tech, because you work for MIT.
Yes.
We are here at the High Tech Campus. What are the most exciting projects you are working on right now?
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, we have so many amazing projects.
Can you highlight one or two?
Yeah, okay. So we have robots, of course, at MIT. We have robots, everything that are as small as my fingernail to 6'5" humanoid robots that drive cars and use power tools. The ones that are very small are actually origami robots, and they fold in on one another. They're a collaboration between a mathematician and a roboticist, and they fold completely and get encapsulated in ice, and you can swallow it, and it does surgery and is eliminated through the digestive system.
Ooh.
It's a pretty cool one, because when you also think of robots, most people think of big metal robots. This is a robot made of sausage casing. So it is perfectly biologically able to be ingested, do its thing, and then eliminated.
And it stays in your body?
Nope, it is eliminated through the digestive tract when it's
okay.
done its business.
Okay. When it's and then you eat one every day, or how does it
No,
work?
when you no, if you needed to have surgery or drug delivery, something like that, it would just come, do its job, and move on.
Okay.
So it's pretty amazing. We also have things, so the lab, I should say, is everything in computer science and artificial intelligence. So we have robotics, natural language processing, computer vision, to so many different things. And I'm saying some of it too is with like human-computer interaction and anything that has to do with computation. So we have smart fibers. So your dress is pink and you say, oh, I need to go out tonight. It needs to be black. And lights, smart fibers, change your dress black. So you can go from day to night without having to go home.
It just changes the color.
There's a light that you put over it, and it's the smart fibers will change the color and the pigmentation. So Stephanie Mueller is the researcher who works in this space, and she has amazing photochromatic paint and conductive paint. So I say the clicker. She has the paint that you could sit in the chair, and instead of the clicker, I just move my hand over the armrest, and it changes the screen for me. So it's a photochromatic, it's a paint, actually, that works. I was talking to someone earlier who was working in exercise, home exercise. We have a mat that is a smart fiber mat that you can stand on, and it tells you if you're doing all your exercises properly for physical therapy or for the exercises because of how it's balanced and the fibers can reach. We actually have brain-controlled robots too. Ones you don't program that you literally think it. And right now it's very early stages. It's binary. You know, does a paint can go here or does a spool of wire go here? And it's kind of when you know you're reaching for your keys but you picked up something else at that little piece if I did something wrong. And that's what it operates on. But it is truly from a signal. We have robots that work with a patch on your arm that responds to muscle signals. So it truly is a partner with you. If you lift things, it can hold and you can do well the drilling. So, I mean, there's so many. There's so many things.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, I go on and on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there questions? Oh, a lot.
Okay.
I was actually
Ingeloe,
thinking about the dress.
choose your battles.
I was thinking I want to watch the remake of Cinderella with that robot that changes. Carmen.
Thank you very much for your excellent story. I'm very inspired. One thing I recognize very well that I'm doing a lot of coaching of females, but sometimes, to be honest, I'm a little bit afraid that it gives them a stigma that they need to be coached by other females. What is your opinion on that? Should a female look for a balance between male and female allies, or what is your? It's again one of my biases. I'm realizing this question is one of my biases. So what is your opinion on that?
So in terms of male or female mentors and people who help you, I think both are very great to know. Mentors are so important in our lives that they help us and they can see things in us that we may not necessarily have seen. Years ago in the 90s, there was an article, and I can't remember who wrote it, about building your own personal board of directors. Do you guys remember that? Anyone remember it? And it was people who you need, male, female, non-binary, people you need who help you in different parts of your life, who see things about you in that part of your life that you can go to for guidance, that they're your personal board of directors. And I always thought that was a very balanced way of looking for it, because it's rare that you find one person who's going to be everything. But looking at it as a personal board of directors, people that have special things to help you with networking, to help you with your fear of public speaking, like whatever it is, it's good to have a group of people who really help you and work through with your career. That helps. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see you. Hello.
Hi again.
Hi again.
Thanks for the inspiring sharing, and I loved the last piece. What was the largest crazy of you as a role model?
My goodness, largest crazy of me. Geez, I don't know. What is the crazy of me? That's a good question. I never really thought of a crazy for me. Probably, so I don't know, my parents never went to college in the US. I'm first generation, my dad's from Italy. maybe the whole idea of I'm a lawyer by training. I'm not even tech by training. I'm a lawyer. Kind of just pushing all of that. But again, it's people who support you. And as you know, my dad always thought education was very important. I don't think he ever quite understood I was going to be like, okay, I need to go and go and go. But so I guess that's a bit crazy. Is the first I was ever in my family to go to college, to go to law school, get a Juris Doctorate, to go on and do everything in tech. And I know I talked to Sahar about, I'm very social, obviously. I talk a lot. I actually loved computer science. I loved coding and things in high school, but when I was in high school in the 80s, it was, you just kind of did it by yourself on a little computer. I'm way too social for that. So, but I always loved it. And I stayed with it all these years and obviously worked in tech. So, I don't know, it's a good question. I have to start thinking about what my crazy is. Huh.
Thank you.
Last question? Yes?
Hi, Laurie.
Hi.
Hi, Laurie. I'm Lisbeth.
Nice to meet you.
And I was wondering, we have artificial intelligence in our telephones, in our cars, everywhere, especially where we don't know. For the rest, we have
ChatGPT?
Yes, and we use it for in school for summaries, a lot of text work.
Yes.
But where do you see it going, and where could it be really meaningful for the world? Where could it be really positive? That's what I would like to
Positive.
hear.
I like positive. Yeah. Positive is good. Yeah. We are having many, many conversations about guardrails for this, because this really is breakthrough, amazing technology. It can be positive in so many ways. I mean, artificial intelligence in healthcare is mind-blowing. And I say some of the things that we were able to do in the lab during COVID were actually discover new molecules, new antibiotics that hadn't been discovered in years. And it would take humans hundreds of years to do the calculations that these models can do. And I think there's a huge possibility for great benefit in that space. There's a lot of space in the things that we're moving with, like artificial intelligence in the driverless cars, helping mobility, to help people who have mobility challenges and other things be able to really get integrated into society. Because a lot of things we don't really necessarily think of as barriers, but they are, like driving and moving, and those are huge things. ChatGPT has incredible capabilities, and it still makes mistakes. I mean, it's still just a model. If we train the models properly and we put in the guardrails, it will be transformative in many, many ways. I still like, personally, I like the changes in healthcare and the things that we may be able to do in that space. I think it really is inspiring. We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Laurie, how can the people in the audience collaborate with you or MIT?
Oh yes, absolutely.
How does it work?
There are so many ways to collaborate. So if you are interested in what we're doing in computer science and artificial intelligence, we have, I didn't put my website up there. Oh, no I didn't, sorry. I'm CSAIL, which is Computer Science, Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. So CSAIL Alliances. Alliances is the department I run. It is how the lab connects with any industry, government organization outside of the traditional US government grants. So we have a newsletter. We do Alliances Insider, which tells you the latest things that are going on, the latest technology that we have, startups. We have a very, very robust startup community, and a lot of them come out of the lab. And I believe I was telling my friend Louise, who's over there, it's really, really interesting because the faculty will speak about the project that they did as an academic project in the lab and how it moved when they realized it would have impact in the world. And we have some of these series up on our website, and it moves from a project in the lab out into the world and then grows into a very successful, impactful company. All of those things, it's a great way to learn and connect with us. And of course, if any company is interested in research or connecting with students or any of that, that's me.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for setting the tone on our discussion on women in tech. Give her again a big applause, Laurie Glover.
Thank you.
And we continue our program with a very exciting panel of female experts on new leadership. Ingeloo, can I invite you on stage together with the other panelists? Give a big applause to Karin, Marian, Janneke, Sandra, and of course our moderator, Ingeloo.
All right, our female leaders panel. That looks good, right? Doesn't it? So as we begin this panel discussion, we would like to celebrate all female leaders, also here in the audience. Women across various industries have shattered glass ceilings and broken barriers, paving the way for the new generation. So I think that deserves an applause too. So we know it. Research shows that diverse leadership teams, including gender diversity, lead to better decision making, improved performance and increased innovation. And we strongly believe in promoting and supporting female leadership. It's not only a matter of fairness and equity, it's also just a really smart business strategy. So today, 4 inspiring leaders will share their perspective on how collaborative leadership is reshaping business. Karin Middelburg, Vice President HR for Philips in the Netherlands and Western Europe. Marian Spier, serial entrepreneur and founder of FEM-START. Janneke Niessen, also serial entrepreneur and the founding partner at VC fund CapitalT. And Sandra Doreleijers, head of women's football at PSV. Give them one more applause, please. So Marian, let's start with you. You wrote a book about leadership called Impact. I really liked reading it.
Thank you.
And you write about a moment where you realized, wait a minute, I'm a leader. Can you tell about that moment?
Yeah, sure. It's strange because at that time I was managing departments. I've been doing that for many years, but the manager doesn't necessarily have to be a leader. And as a manager, I was very result-oriented. So do the thing, get the job done. And what I discovered is that suddenly my team was asking for a vision. Where are we going as a group? Where are we going as a team? And I had to change the way I was managing the team and also make clear the vision where we wanted to go with the organization. And at that time I discovered, okay, this is leadership. This is something different. This is not management, just management. It's leadership. And that was for me the moment.
And how did it feel?
It's like a light bulb moment. I still remember where it happened. It was in the evening. For people who are from Amsterdam or no Amsterdam, it was at Soko. I was presenting something. And while I was presenting where we are going with the organization, I discovered, okay, this is leadership. It's not just the results and how we're doing the job, but really creating an atmosphere so that my team will grow and that I will be able to transfer the knowledge that is within me and so that they can also grow.
Janneke, did you also have a moment like this?
Well, slightly different, I would say. When somebody told me for the first time, hey, you're really my role model, I was looking behind me like, who are you speaking to? I can't say it was a light bulb moment for me. It was more uncomfortable. I was like, I just live my life. Why do you make it in such a big thing? And then I realized, well, if people see you as an example, that's actually pretty great. And get over yourself. Act like it. Yeah, I sort of kicked myself, trying not to be too Dutch. And just embraced the fact that people saw me like that and took a more active role there.
And how's that going?
Well, I think I think that's going pretty well. I feel less comfortable, at least in a professional setting. Yesterday, somebody told me a story where apparently one of my neighbors, I had no clue it was one of my neighbors, told her like, oh, but I live in the same street as her. And I, yeah.
I know, it's strange.
Those kind of things I like, really, I'm not that important. But I think it's great when you have the opportunity to inspire other people, to set an example, to speak up on behalf of people that are not on the same level as you are or have the privilege to be asked for their opinion. So I really think when you have that role, you should pick that up and try to make the world slightly better for the next generation. So yeah, that's why I do it, not because people tell me like, oh, I live in the same street.
Yeah,
I really don't care about that. In my personal life, I just like to be me, but I think in a professional setting, I do see it as a responsibility to act upon it.
Sandra, what kind of leader are you?
Well, I hear some good things already. I think what I try to be is that I have a vision and that I want to achieve that vision, but I want to achieve it together with other people. And I think when you can combine that spark and create something together, that's when you can really achieve something. And especially, in being in the football industry, it's demanding and
it's very competitive.
Yeah, you need to perform all the time, but what's really important is that you, of course, you set a goal because you want to win, but it's not in the end about the winning. Of course, that's the result, but it's about the process and the road that leads you towards winning. And if you create an environment where people want to really go out there and give the best and have a good environment and also, be honest to each other when it's not good, because you need to give compliments when it's good, but also be honest when it's not good. And I think that's what a leader also needs to do, is say as it is. And that's how I try to be the leader.
Karin, how do you look at this?
Yeah, I would say for me, leadership is all about being humble, but also confident. I think it's really important to be humble because then you listen better, you can learn, you can grow, and you should never stop doing that, obviously. But I think especially as a leader, sometimes you tend to think, okay, I've seen it, done it, this is how we do it. But sometimes you have to take a decision because sometimes somebody needs to do it, also the uncomfortable ones. But after that, you need to kind of shut up, listen to your team and see what they come up with, because a leader maybe has to set the tone or set the pace or take the final decision, as I said. But in the end, it's the team that knows how. And I think that's the key to leadership for me. So humble but confident is what I always say.
Really like it. Nice description. Marian, let's go back to you as well, because you wrote also a lot about your leadership's lessons learned. Can you maybe share some of them here in the audience?
One is humbleness.
Yeah.
You don't know it all. I always hire people who know much more than me, because for me, I just need to create the environment so that they will flourish. That is what I learned. I also learned, and that I wrote in my book, is that sometimes you have somebody who's really good at their job, but they're not nice, which is not good for the team. And in the beginning, I would just hire people who are good at the job, so that we could go faster, but then you don't have the desired result in the end. So that is one thing I learned too. And it's all about the team. So constantly, because I know for myself that I always go too fast, so I always have to think about, okay, I have to bring in the team and discuss what we're doing. And every time, even this morning, I woke up at 7, I was like, oh yeah, I have to tell the team this and this so that we can move forward. But also, I'm in several boards, and I see it with the CEOs that flourish are the ones that really collaborate with their team. So it is something that is working. It's not that it's management language.
Mm-hmm. And it's not only a female thing, right?
No, absolutely not. No. I was hearing a question about role models. My first mentor was was a guy from Limburg. And yes, and that was my first job. It was only with engineers at KPN in a tech environment. And I remember the things he said. He said, you know, you're smart. I know you're smart, but I think the social side of you will bring you much further than being smart. And that was so, you know, for me, because once you finish your university or whatever, you're only focused on, especially women, we're focused on we are smart, you know, we have our 8s and 9s or 10s, as we say in the Netherlands, and then we will get further. But I learned from him how to network, how to learn about informal powers within organization as a woman, because as a woman, you're so not focused at that. You're just focused on doing the job and getting further. And that brought me really far.
So you also have to play the political game, you mean, in the organizations?
Well, you can see it as a game, or you can see it as a roadmap for your future. So I didn't see it as a game. I saw it as, okay, this is how it works. You know, this is in the space I move in. And it's helped me to immediately connect also with people that it's not only you're in that space already, so you know you belong there. So how are you going to move in that space? And as a leader, it is important, and also as a leader, it is important to show that to your team so that they will know how to move.
Karin, how do you navigate? For example, in a company like Philips?
Yeah, it's of course a big conglomerate, so you do need to know people, but it's all in the end about personality. So if you know who is who and what is important for them, and I don't mean political, but really what is important for them, personal, what do they want to achieve, then through that human connection you can actually achieve quite a lot, because people remember you for who you are, not only for what you do. And of course, if you then deliver a good performance, then you also get a seat at the table. So it's a combination of the two, and exactly what you say, you need to know how to use your network. And also what Laurie said, make sure your team knows the network, because it's not just, you're just a single player. If you can use your whole team to network into the purpose of your team, then actually you have a huge power, so to say, and use it in a good way. So I think if you lead through others, you can really achieve much more. It's not just about you, but sometimes you happen to be the face or the voice, and then you need to take that stage when it's there. But for me, it's not necessarily about me. It really is about putting things forward. And to be honest, it makes my life a lot easier that it's not just me. You know, 2 months ago, I lost my dad. I had to be away for a while. And then I really realized that leadership happens when you're not there. When I wasn't there, my team was just doing the job, and it was amazing. And I was sometimes thinking I had to leave a bit more, because actually they're doing great without me, right? So it is fantastic to see how that works, and that has a lot to do with trust. So if you trust your team and they trust you, so they also can come to you and say when they don't feel safe or there's something that doesn't work, then you will create that power with them so they can do it when you're not there.
Sandra, sorry. Janneke.
No, I wanted to say that it sounds like we all know how to do things, but to be honest, I really sometimes still struggle with that, because I'm very enthusiastic. I have an entrepreneurial mind, so if I see a problem, I want to fix it, and then my immediate response is to do that. And then sometimes you have a great result, and still people are unhappy because of the wrong process. And it really still frustrates me. I know how it works, and that there's different people in an organization, and you need to give everybody like their role. But yeah, I think it's sometimes difficult when there's so much focus on the process instead of the outcome, just because of ego.
And it's really hard to let go, to let it out of your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra, how do you deal with this? I mean, you have a team that plays for the win, so you have to let go too. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying. It's because, especially, you know, first there was, in Europe, it's more towards men's football, and now it's women's football is really on the rise. And 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I started, it was really about working towards that dream of building and giving women equal opportunities. And now that we've come a long way, it's you see the ego coming. You see the ego of women and their agents, and it's all about the money and themselves. And how do you deal with that in that environment? Is because you still have, in one direction, you have to go into one direction and win together as a team, and then you have to set aside your ego. And I find it challenging sometimes. But I think, again, then it's about, what's the vision, what's the dream that you have together? And yeah, you want to have all good people, because at first, I was recruiting the players, and I was thinking, I want to have good personalities, I want to have good people who really want to work hard and work together. But you cannot win only with those type of personalities. Sometimes you need the egos and the bitches, because because they will be selfish, and really, when it comes down to it, they will score that goal for you. So it's those different types of personalities. If you can combine them and for some reason find that one common goal, that's where you create a good environment where everybody feels that they have ownership and they can contribute towards reaching that goal.
Yeah, so that's where you align. So Janneke, you really focus also with your investment fund, CapitalT, on those diverse teams, and because they score better. Can you tell us more about the challenges they also face now? Because it's really hard for female founders, for example, to find funding. Your partner Eva de Mol also did research. I think all female founders less than 0.8%?
6. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredibly low.
Yeah. But for founders of color, it's even worse. It's so low you can round it off to 0. So, but it's still horrible. Yeah, and it goes down. It's not getting better.
Yeah, so the numbers are going down. Well, we see that diversity is working. So, what is going wrong?
People don't care enough. When you look at venture capital, bias plays a huge role. People like to invest in people they recognize, they've worked with in the past, that are from the same networks, products and services that they recognize. It's a very human thing. But if the VC world is very white and male, that bias goes one direction. So a first important step is to diversify teams on the VC side. And because then you have more different views there, and the bias is more mixed. You also see that VCs with a more diverse team invest more diverse, but also it's a very closed system. For example, for a lot of VCs, you need a warm intro to have somebody look at your deck. And a warm intro means that somebody sends a message on behalf of you, like, hey, look at this deck. But to get a warm introduction, you need to be in the network of that person. And the sort of general view is that if you are a great entrepreneur, you manage to get that introduction. I think that's really BS from people in the networks, because I grew up outside all these networks. My parents were teachers, and I knew nothing about this world, literally nothing. I didn't know it existed. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know how to navigate. And so it took me a long time to actually become part of the networks. And I think you can't expect people to do that while they should focus on their business. I also think it's a really different skill to try to get into a network versus getting a client for your business. It's really different things, but somehow it's all grouped together. And that's how you make it much more difficult for people outside the networks to actually get funding. I think that's a big mistake. Also, it shows really a lack of understanding statistics, because if you think that all the amazing unicorns of the future are in your network, I mean, it's statistically impossible. Yeah. And I think you should be much more open to different views, be less harsh to how people present, and because there's this assumption of a great entrepreneur, and they have a certain style, they present in a certain way, they develop in a certain way, but if you don't have people in your environment who tell you how these things work, you might have a less fancy deck, but that doesn't say you can't be an amazing entrepreneur. Maybe you don't know everything yet how it works, and you say slightly the wrong things. Can't mean you can't change the world. So I think we need to crack through that, and it starts with people caring. There's a few funds in the Netherlands that care, and there you see that it's different. And there's some that say they care, but they don't. Look at their portfolio. Somebody was saying recently, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. And I think you should really look at people's behavior. What does their portfolio look like? There, I spoke with a black female founder, and she was like, I've been through the female Tuesday, Black Founder Tuesday of this fund like for 12 months straight, and I can't get to speak to one of the partners about my fundraise. So I think you should really look at people's action. If I look at us, we really make an effort. We try to do things differently. Half of our portfolio companies have a female founder. Over half have a founder of color. They are there. There's so many amazing founders and female founders and founders of color that it's really an accomplishment almost to invest in just white men. I don't see how you manage to do it. But then again, we also feel the pressure to outperform all these lazy funds. And because if we don't, we give people ammunition to say, you see, it's not working.
Yeah.
But luckily, our top 3 companies, 2 of the 3 have a female founder, and also a founder of color, 2 out of 3. So, well, if we continue that way, then hopefully all the investors in those other funds are saying, like, why are you not like them? So let's see. It will take some time.
And great leadership as well to come there. Marian, if you also help a lot of female founders and startups, people becoming entrepreneurs, you also try really to focus on closing.
Sorry, can I grab you on the word help? So you're saying help female founders. Female founders don't need help. They are really amazing already. All they need is a level playing field.
Exactly. And that's what you're giving them. Yeah, exactly. So Marian, you are helping them with that as well. Not helping, but
we're creating a level playing
not
field.
daring to say anything.
Not only VC money. So I did a lot of roadshows with RVO, for the people who are Dutch, which is an organization that acts for the Ministry of Economic Affairs and connects startups and businesses with VCs, and also gives them grants. So what I discovered while I was doing these roadshows is that there were female founders, all these female founders that were looking for funding, but there was a lot of miscommunication between the VCs or the RVO that was wanted to give them grants, because they were in a certain stage of their company. For instance, they would take pre-seed, seed, and then there was a VC who said, well, you need to make so much money, so I cannot invest in you. And what we did is, through a lot of research, we set up an online learning platform, and Janneke is also in it, where we teach them what types of funding there are. There's not just VC funding, but also angel funding and grants and crowdfunding, which can also be dangerous if you don't do it the right way. So that is one part of our online learning program. Another part is that we prepare them how they should talk to an investor. And there was where Janneke played a big role with one of our winners of the FEM-START awards, Mickey Chen. So education is it's a big part of it. And what we've seen, we organize sessions bi-monthly, that the conversations are about the content and not about I need coaching, I need this, but just how does it work?
How do I get in?
How do I get in?
Yeah.
Should I do crowdfunding or not? Should I go for grants or not? Should I ask for VC money or not? And we invite speakers also to educate them how they should do that. And what we've seen, we receive emails from ladies. Last week one said, because of you, we raised money. So I immediately said, okay, I want to interview you now. Because our mission is to bridge the gap. And our ultimate mission, of course, is to help 100,000 women. And what we've seen is that we receive so many responses from women that said, I've raised funding because of your organization. And what we also see is that they're very shy to tell the story. So that's another issue, because the amounts are not that big. But I say we have to start somewhere. So because women want to know what they're doing, you're so focused on your business, you're not focused, you don't know anything about venture finance. I followed the course because I really wanted to know about that. And once they know what kind of funding they need and know how to do it, and we connect them with the right organization that can supply the funds, we see results.
Yeah.
And we've been busy for 3 years. You have seen the journey also. It's a lot of work, but now we see the results, and that is really beautiful.
So education is key. Janneke, do you see, because you're saying the numbers are going down, is it getting harder and harder for female founders or founders of different colors? Is it harder to get in?
I think it has never been easy. I think what is a little bit like misleading in the numbers is that they are overall about funding. And we've had 2 record years in funding, but mainly later stage. And I think, well, you need to start at the early stages. So the percentage is going down. Doesn't mean automatically it gets more difficult, and I think it has always been difficult, and it hasn't always been easy for a lot of founders. I think if you're a serial entrepreneur or you worked at a big fintech company and then you start a fintech company, it has been super easy. But getting money from investors is not easy and doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be more difficult for women than for men, and that currently is the case. Same for people of color. It shouldn't be more difficult for them. But for a lot of founders, it's never easy, and I think that's also important to realize. It's a difficult game, and it seems sometimes easy, but remember that's a very small group.
Karin, I also want to go to you, because when you look at a company like Philips, how do they, for example, help also women to grow into leadership positions?
We facilitate it by offering, for example, gigs is something we've started a few years ago, where you can get stretch assignment in different departments, even different countries. Doesn't mean you need to leave your current job, but you can just take a look outside, and that happens also for male. It's not just only females, but we see that is really a good thing, because sometimes women, as we all know, need a little push. But once they're there, they do an amazing job, and then they go to other great positions. So, and that's a good one. Of course, we do mentoring, also reverse mentoring, which we think is valuable across different generations, for example. So yeah, we do quite a lot outside the regular stuff, of course, of leadership development, etc. So there's always a lot of education going on, but we also believe very much in the awareness that I also hear. When you know what the content is, you can probably also use it. A lot of people have it in them. There is natural leadership. So you give them the tools. So we believe in toolkits, facilitation toolkits. You give team collaboration toolkits, and people can just take it. It's a plug and play concept, and then you don't need to wait until the next class comes on. So there's a bit of a self-service concept, and it works for both, I would say, not just for females. Just.
So it's again the education part, informing, right?
Yeah.
What really helps. And you also lived abroad. You lived for 22 years in Denmark. Do you see differences? Because we know Scandinavia has a different image. Do you see differences in leadership there?
Yeah, I was when I was reading about the collaborative leadership style, I was thinking this is actually the Scandinavian leadership style. I mean, they've been doing this for years and years. I mean, the whole thing about working from home, and they have this expression in Denmark, frihed under ansvar, which basically means you get the freedom with the responsibility. So you, as a leader, I give you the whole lot, I empower you, but you have a responsibility to deliver, to give me feedback, etc. And that has just worked, and I can see now after COVID, we also all implementing this, and I think it's fantastic because it really works. You look at people at an eye-to-eye level, and not just I'm the boss. I have a book at home from 2012. It's called Unboss. Interesting book. Already 11 years ago, they were talking, it's a Danish book, you know, this is how you unboss the society. We don't need bosses, we need, you know, the leaders that we are from ourselves already, and it's not that hard. You need a leader to take the decisions, like I said before, and to set the pace, but not because we need bosses all around us. So.
And when you came back to the Netherlands, how was that switch for you?
I was a bit surprised. I felt we were a little bit behind, definitely, the Scandinavian leadership style, also compared to what's said before. A lot of women working part-time, which is amazing because that you can't do in Scandinavia. You work full-time, but then almost everybody works full-time. Also men, women, doesn't matter. And I thought we still have a journey to go there in this. Seeing eye to eye has a lot to do, again, with trust. So the psychological safety in teams, that you can be eye to eye and don't always need somebody to tell you what to do, but you get up from the crowd and say, I think this is the way forward. You need to feel safe in a space like that. And I think there also in the Netherlands, we still have a step to make. Yeah.
And when you look at your own team, how do you try to create that safe psychological place?
Well, it's all about being vulnerable yourself, I think, being the role model. Yes, you can be sometimes, you know, the boss, as we talked about before, or the one who tells, but at the same time also be the one that, you know, sometimes you have to cry or be sad or be very upset. I think all emotions, sometimes people think when you're a leader, you're not to show too many emotions. And that, I think, is so fundamentally wrong, because if you show, you know, how you feel, other people will come to you when they feel off one day or very happy another day. I think it's all about this sharing, and when you do that together with your team, you get this great bonding, even if it's virtual, because my whole team is all over 38 countries, and it works. Now we come together for the first time in 3 years. I'm really looking forward to that. But we did huge transformations just by connecting virtually, but really creating daily space of seeing people eye to eye on a one-on-one basis, but also in groups, of course. Yeah.
Sandra, how do you look at this as creating that safe place where everybody can thrive?
Yeah, first, can I ask another question? Because what I'm sometimes struggling with is that I feel that as a leader, I need to be visible. You know, I want to set an example and lead by example, so I feel I have to be at the office the whole time. Whereas sometimes, you know, I'm able to work at home for a day or 2 days if I would like to, but I feel I can't. How do you go by, or how do you as leaders go by? Do you feel you always have to be there, or is it all right for you, you know, sometimes to work at home also?
For sure. You know, and as I said, for me, it doesn't matter where I sit, but I connect with my team almost every day, even if it's just a little chat, it's a phone call, it's a virtual thing, it's an email. It's connecting is so many more things than just being there together. I, you know, don't underestimate the value of face-to-face. I think is really important. But if you can't, then just, and by working from home, you're also setting an example that definitely that is possible, which creates a lot more space for women also to come into leadership or other positions. Even if you want to work from home, because a lot of women find that very convenient, and men too, by the way.
Yeah, I would like to add an anecdote, because when I had my own company, at a certain point we had an Xbox in the office, and with a big screen, and we thought, well, that's fun for the people working with us, and then nobody was playing it, and I asked, like, why are you not doing it? And they were like, well, you're always working, during lunch, so we don't feel we can take a proper lunch. And I was like, oh shit. So I gave the wrong example. And I think also working from home, indeed, like you're saying, shows that you are allowed to do that to other people as well. So that's also the moment for me that I was like, I have to take a lunch. I need to set the right example here.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. But I do think, in football it is different because, the staff is always there because you're actually practicing and the players are always there. So then sometimes I am struggling. Okay, I think I can really work from home, but I want to be visible also. That's because they're always there, because they have to be there. They can't work from home because, they have to be out on the field.
It's different, yeah.
Maybe later in the metaverse we'll see.
Yeah.
But when you are also an expert in team dynamics, of course, and how to deal with a team, how do you make from a team a real team?
Yeah, that's, I think, the biggest challenge, and I think that's also the key to whether a team is successful or not. Luckily, I studied interpersonal communication, so I'm really all about, communicating with people and relating to people and trying to read people in what they need and what is necessary within the team. So even with people not talking to each other, or just by looking at people, the way they interact, or making eye contact or not eye contact, I think that's how you can tell whether a team is connecting and clicking or not. That is the challenge. And sometimes I've had teams where I thought it was, it was really easy, and the past 2 years we've been struggling where those little connections, they weren't being made, and we tried to bring in somebody to help us with that, and have a team developer doing these things. But he didn't have the right connection either with the players. So next year we're bringing somebody else who was really top level from Europe. Wolfsburg is a very big club in Europe for women's football, and we're actually going to bring him in because we think, it is the key to success. If the team is really working well, then you can do this. And of course, I try to contribute to that. And the coach of the team is the most important part in that also. And I try to coach our head coach in that also. But it's one of the most challenging things. Where the team chemistry, where they all, feel like, okay, this is actually the place I want to be in, where I can thrive, and also do hard things.
And can you maybe give an example of how you see the team sometimes struggling? What do you do?
I observe because I watch the practices, and I'm in the room where the staff is talking about how they want to build a play or do things. And I observe, and if I see things, I talk to the people, or sometimes I go to the players myself and I have a chat with them, or I have a chat with the player council and say, hey, I can tell there, for example, there's two teams within the team. There's one team that's not playing that much, it's not getting much playing time, and they're clicking together. Well, you as a leadership group, how are you going to make sure that you're going to have them with the team again? Because they do play an important role. Because, when you're practicing, there's 22 players out on the pitch. The first 11, they also need people to practice against. And, if somebody gets injured, you need to be ready, and everybody needs to be ready. So that's what I try to do. I try to talk to the leadership role and say, hey, you have a role in this also. And if it's difficult, I can help you. But, you do have a role and a responsibility in doing this because, we appointed you as a leader. And it's okay if you find it difficult because, we can help you. But by just looking away, that's not an option.
Very interesting. Some questions from the audience. Hilde, maybe you can throw the microphone. I already see a hand in the back and in the beginning. Yeah, at the back.
The back, in the front.
Yeah, the back.
I hoped you said at the front. Where is... I'm always happy to bring the mic to Maura. Here it is.
Thanks for the talk. My question is to Sandra. So first of all, I'm a fan of the Dutch women football team. I think they're the best in the world.
Can you keep the...
I love the club. Okay, yes. I know at least a few years ago in US, while the women team was outperforming and the guys were underperforming, the men were receiving more money than women. How is it with the Dutch national team.
Well, actually, in the US, that has changed lately, so that's equal at the moment. With the Dutch national team, we've had the same conversations. So the women in 2017, they became European champions. In 2019, they were the finalists of the World Championship. So they were having talks, and actually our former captain and goalkeeper, Sahar, she was also the captain of the national team. She was leading those talks, and she did a really good job with some other players. So at this point, there are when they go out for the national team, they get equal pay with the men. So that's something that they will keep.
So is there any lesson learned, tips and tricks for the rest of us?
You know, I think women's football it's growing really fast, and maybe I'm not making myself really popular in saying this. You also always what I've tried to do at PSV is to create an environment where women can be just as good as men, where they can thrive, where they can have the best facilities, they can have the best coaches, have the best players around them, and also, make a living out of doing this. 5 years ago, this wasn't possible, and now this is possible. So I'm really happy that we've achieved that. But also, I'm sometimes a bit concerned because some players in other countries or even in Holland, they can make a lot of money already. But we're still not we're not a money-making business yet. Some teams are, but a lot of teams aren't. So the pace in which things are going, it's sometimes a bit difficult because you have players that demand a lot of things, but we're not money-making business yet. So how do you balance that? And I think that's sometimes difficult in making the right decisions, because we want the best for the women the whole time, want more and more and more. But sometimes, you also need to take into consideration the context in which they are working.
Before I fall down. I have a question to Karin, because you're also working at Philips. We all know that Philips is in a little of a crisis as we speak. How do you see the role of leadership in this situation, maybe looking at the current leadership, and how would you like to see it, so future leadership?
Yeah, thank you. And the question, totally fair question.
Fair question, yeah.
I can't say I didn't expect it. No, totally fair. I think I really like the new leadership style because it's very transparent. We try to be much more open about the quality problems that we have had or the supply chain issues that there are, and also look inward and say, okay, what as a company, what as a leadership should we do better? So that's also what I hope we can continue, and it's also really my personal experience that this is, we say it as it is. It's sometimes not pretty, but that's the only way forward if you want to be honest with each other and with your employees. And it cannot be right that some employees read things in a newspaper before we've told them. So we've done a huge communication effort to really be much more upfront about things, the good and the bad and the ugly and everything. And sometimes it's difficult because there's also a legal balance, or there is some news that you're not sure about yourself. But what I really, really like is the transparency, and that maybe before was a little bit more introverted, so to say, but now we've really learned that we need to look at ourselves and then also admit when things go wrong, and there comes the psychological safety again, so that people who see especially quality problems, because we're talking about patients and vulnerable lives, you need to speak up, and this kind of leadership we're really trying to promote right now. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question. Yeah, one more question. I see Nancy here. Yeah.
Sorry. Ladies, amazing panel. It's so much fun here. So my name is Nancy, and my question is, you all talked about humility and as a quality, right, that has, also part of your leadership style. And my first question in my head was already like, okay, how do you actually do that, right? And I loved already, I think, Marian, you talked about like just admitting that you don't know everything, and I loved that. But the question I really have is around the perception of humility, because we know that women, people of color, women of color struggle with this a little bit more. I have struggled with it. I continue to try to find a balance in how I show up in different spaces, and I'm curious how all of you, some of you, actually deal with, or deal is not a good word, but actually navigate this, right? And also, what can we do as women to support each other on this?
Good question.
Is it for me, the question?
For
okay.
for all of you.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, so, of course, as you were saying, humility and confidence. You don't know everything, so that makes you humble. That doesn't mean that that people can step over you and can do whatever they want with you. As you can see, I'm in this room, I'm talking, I'm not scared. So humility doesn't mean fearful. You don't have to be fearful. Humility doesn't mean that you're not strong. You know what you're talking about. But you're also aware of that you can also make mistakes. And that when you are a leader and you have a team, because I was talking about as a leader, that you're humble enough to tell your team, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. I think we should do it this way. As a woman of color, of course, sometimes it's difficult to be in those spaces. But I had an interview with a newspaper last week, and of course, the talk was about color, and I said, for me, racism is a distraction. I'm not gonna focus on that. It is there, I know it is. I don't say that it's not there, but it's not going to distract me to reach my goal. So as a woman of color, to you, I want to encourage you, do not be distracted.
And maybe to add something to that, I think if you also read a lot of the research, as women, you can't seem to do it right anyway. So either you smile too much, you smile too little, you're too confident, you're not confident enough. So I think then you might as well act confident and do what the hell you want to do, because people will comment anyway. Yeah. And try to ignore those voices. At the beginning of the year, I wrote a column with the title "Zero Fucks Given," and that's my motto for this year, where I try to care less about other people's opinion.
Thank you so much. Give them a very big applause, please. Thank you. Oh ja, ik blijf er.
Yep. So that was a very, very interesting panel. And Sandra, good luck with the final this Thursday, because PSV Women is playing the cup final. Yes. There are still tickets to cheer for them in ADO, at the ADO Den Haag stadium. Yes, yes. Okay. I need
like a 5-minute break.
Energy
Maybe we need some
dance
music.
break.
Yeah,
Yes.
you don't need to dance, but it's nice to just stand up and just shake a little. We will put on some music.
Yeah, before we move on with the next
Shake your hands, shake your hands. To the left, to the right.
Just do a little bit.
Welcome back to the annual program, to the Fe+male Tech Heroes Conference, to the plenary program. Did we enjoy the breakouts? Yes. Okay, good to hear. And did we enjoy the lunch? Yes, okay. A big compliment to our colleagues of Eurest and especially Janine, who made it all happen. This year she outdone herself with all the asparagus, so fantastic. So it's time to unleash our potential and learn strategies to excel in a high impact career. And we will do so with Kimberly Fuqua. And she is Managing Director of Customer Success at Microsoft and also a Global Diversity and Inclusion Advocate. So give her a very warm welcome.
Hello. Hi guys, I love the energy in the room. We've been on a journey today together, learning to dare to grow. And right now we're going to talk about navigating through the ever-changing world of work. You know, wouldn't it be nice to have a GPS for our careers like we have on our phones and our cars? This is my idea, don't steal it. I would love it because it would be a career GPS that would kind of, make sure that we go the right direction and go there at the right time. Take jobs, leave jobs when we need to make sure we get to our destination faster and avoid delays. And it would be great if it would even start rerouting when we went the wrong way, right? It reroutes and we made a wrong career decision. But we don't have that right now. Maybe with the growth and prevalence of artificial intelligence, we might have that one day. But until that time, we need to find our own way, create our own path, and revise and replace the old rules of career advancement that no longer serve us. So to succeed in this fast-paced, highly competitive tech job market, I think all of us know about that. We've talked a lot about that today. We all must be strategic, agile, and proactive in our approach to career growth. For underrepresented populations, we need to be thinking about different strategies for career growth in order for us to succeed. As a Black woman who's been in IT for over 25 years, I have a lot of, stories and strategies and a framework that I'm hoping you guys can use to help reach your career goals. But you must do the work to deploy these strategies and make them work for you. So, active listening, motivational energy, and emotional agility. All of these things are fundamental tools that we must leverage to become better versions of ourselves every day. And they are the keys to unlocking the confidence that we need. We talked about that a little bit earlier with Jacinta. The connection and the resilience that's needed to improve our personal and professional relationships so that we can drive positive change in our organizations and communities. Now, I think most of us understand that by developing good listening skills, we become better and more effective communicators, better problem solvers, and also it helps with positive impact on our careers. Simply put, if we're active listening, we're able to build trust and rapport with others and therefore build a lot stronger professional relationships that can lead to us developing a network that can take our career to the next level. In 2018, there was an article published in the Journal of Management Development, and that article explored the influence of active listening on career success. And what it found was that people who demonstrated active listening skills had stronger professional relationships, they were able to gain more valuable insights, and they could enhance their professional reputations such that they had more success in their careers. So right now, I hope you're asking, what does active listening look like? We talk a lot about it, but how does it really show up? I think many of us, when we think that we're actively listening, I hope you're actively listening now, we're actually passively listening. And you're just hearing the words from someone's mouth, but you are not fully engaged and present in the conversation. Sometimes our minds go elsewhere, we're preoccupied with tasks that we have to do, and we're just simply not paying attention. And in many cases, I will admit this happens to me, we're actually thinking about our response that we're going to make to what the person is saying, rather than really trying to understand what's being communicated. That means we miss important details, and then we also may misunderstand completely what their intent and message is. Active listening, on the other hand, is actually leaning in and giving your whole attention to what the person is saying, focusing on their words, noticing their body language and their nonverbal cues, and also making a conscious effort to understand their perspective. Active listening requires curiosity. It means you're asking questions. You're paraphrasing back to that person what you think you heard and then giving feedback to make sure you understood the message correctly. Remember this definition. Active listening is an intentional and proactive process of understanding and engaging with others. In other words, it's freaking hard work, okay? It takes a lot of patience, too. Yeah, and I remember several years ago when I met for the first time with the Vice President of IT Operations for one of our largest, most strategic customers. And this person, it was quite a difficult conversation, let's just say, because every time I tried to respond to a question or a comment, this person kept coming back in before I could finish my sentence and my response. So you can imagine at some point in the conversation of this going back and forth, I was physically present, but my active listening skills had turned off. And by the end of the meeting, I was just mentally tired and so disconnected. The person had asked me, hey, you want to go to lunch? And I was like, no, thank you, no. Not realizing the implications that had on the longer term relationship I was trying to build with this key stakeholder. And needless to say, I was never able to rise to the level of trusted advisor with this person. So, lesson learned. Active listening is an endurance sport. If you want to strengthen this muscle, you must do it thoughtfully, consistently, and intentionally every day. You must practice the skill. Active listening requires a lot of discipline, but it takes a lot of motivation and energy to put that discipline into practice. Motivation helps us to stay focused and committed even in the face of obstacles and setbacks. Energy is the physical and mental capacity it takes to take action and get things done. Motivation and energy are very closely linked. In fact, one can fuel the other. So when you have a lot of motivation, you typically are enthusiastic and energetic about your work. When you have high levels of energy, you are engaged and you're motivated to get the work done. There was a study published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology that found that employees with higher levels of energy were also more likely to engage in proactive behaviors as well as lean in on challenging tasks. And of course, what does that do? That helps to move your career in the right direction. So let's talk a little bit about energy and generating energy and what that may look like. There are 4 behaviors that I believe are the behaviors of a person with a high performance mindset. And these are ones we should do every day. I don't think you guys are going to be surprised by them, but I think all of us at one time or another struggle with them. So I came up with an acronym to help you remember. I might test you after this, so remember this. Take some notes, mental notes. Remember and don't forget your daily good news. News is the acronym. N is for nutrition, E for exercise, W for water, and S for sleep. Quickly talk about them. Oh yeah, everybody's going, yeah, I know. But how many of us do them on a regular basis? Me included. Nutrition. We all know we should try to eat a balanced diet and more specifically try to stay away from a lot of sugar and processed foods. What does that do? That impacts your energy. Typically you have energy crashes, and that's why at 2 o'clock you see a lot of people around the coffee machine and going to get their Snickers or whatever it is to get their energy back up. So let's try to focus on our nutrition. Exercise, regular physical activity is key. It helps with your waistline, that's true, makes you feel better there. It also releases endorphins, and it helps with blood circulation and better sleep, which we'll get to in a second. Water, stay hydrated with water, not the sugary drinks and the pop and the tea and the, lots of sugar in your coffee and the stroopwafel. Did I say that right? I'm working on my Dutch, okay. Uh, but stay hydrated with water, because when you're dehydrated, it does cause fatigue and it reduces your cognitive function. That's something else that's very important to remember. We want our brains to work optimally. And lastly, but completely underrated, is sleep. When we don't get enough sleep, we don't allow our bodies and our brains to fully recharge. You should be aiming for 7 to 9 hours of high quality sleep every night. So don't forget your good news. But I have two other, I'm going to call them Kim tips, that I want to give you. One of them is about generating optimal energy. Now hang with me now. I'm going to say some things, hopefully it won't shock you. But generating optimal energy, especially first thing in the morning, is as easy as turning down the temperature on your morning shower. I'm talking about the power of the cold shower. I know, everybody's gasping like, no! But this might be too much information, but I take a cold shower every morning, even in the winter. In addition to having clearer skin and a stronger immune system and shinier hair, it also releases these electrical impulses in your brain. And studies have been done on this. And those electrical impulses help with mental clarity, with alertness, and high levels of energy. Also, the endorphins that we talked about with the exercise are also released. And that helps you have a feeling of well-being and calm and optimism. So it's a simple health hack. I know many of you are bristling right now as you even think about taking a cold shower. But it's a simple health hack that can literally jolt your system. Let me give you another tip, and this is about preserving your energy. And it comes from billionaire media mogul Oprah Winfrey. So she knows a lot about building a career from the bottom up, a successful career, which is why she's got billionaire in front of her descriptors. And one of her most famous quotes is this: I realize in every relationship, I'm not only accountable for the energy I bring to that relationship, but I also need to take responsibility for the energy that I allow from others. The energy of the people that we spend time with has a great impact on our success, on our well-being, and our overall happiness. So evaluate your relationships on a regular basis. Evaluate your environment. Make conscious choices about what and who you allow in your space. There is power in surrounding yourself with people who are positive, like the people I'm looking at right now, uplifting, have a lot of energy, and they can help you keep your energy levels at the right place to take your career to new heights. So even after we talked about generating optimal energy and preserving that energy, we are human, right? Life happens. And we experience different variety of emotions every single day in our personal lives as well as in the workplace. Emotional agility helps us to manage those emotions, communicate with others, and then make decisions that are grounded in our values and priorities. Existential flexibility, that's what I want to talk about next, is highly related to emotional agility, and it means that we're able to adapt to the changing circumstances that happen all around us. We can take appropriate risk, and we can pursue new opportunities that also align with our values and goals. These two skills allow us to stay agile and resilient in the face of uncertainty and ambiguity. And if you're able to do that, then you can focus on your goals even when things are changing around you, and that will help you get to the next career step and make progression in your career that much faster. Most of what I have learned about those two skills come from my parents. My parents were both born and raised in Alabama in the 1950s and 60s. And I don't know how many of you know about the civil rights era in the U.S., but it was quite difficult being a Black American at that time, especially in Alabama. It is arguably, at that time, one of the most racist states in the United States. This is a state where in 1963, white supremacists planted a bomb in a church, killing 4 little girls. And those people that planted the bomb were not brought to prosecution for their crimes for almost 40 years. So it was systemically racist as well. But my parents always had these really strong values, and they believed that with hard work and good education, they would be able to have success in their careers and their personal lives. So at some point, they moved to Chicago. Shout out to the Obamas in Chicago. And I grew up on the south side of Chicago, just like Michelle Obama, in an all-black neighborhood until I was 13. And in 1983, my parents decided that they wanted to find a place with the best schools in the area and just a more upscale neighborhood. So they were looking to make sure that they could provide the best for myself and my brothers. And so we moved to an all-white community in a suburb of Chicago called Naperville. Well, even after the decades of hatred and racist treatment that my parents received, they still stood strong. They took a lot of risk in moving and for us to be the only black family in our neighborhood at that time. And it really showed me that they were willing to show the courage needed to adhere and align to their values and priorities. And that helped me a lot when I faced one of the most devastating, painful turning points in my life, and that was the passing of my son, Alan, at the age of 14. It was the shock and the sadness of that was the biggest, I would say, hardest time in my life for me and my family, and we'll never get over it. But I realized at that point that I needed to make a change. I needed to redefine what my values, my goals, my priorities were. And I decided, you know, I'm going to take a risk, a big risk, with courage and fear, which in many cases go side by side. And I'm going to decide to live and work in a country other than my native United States. So I activated my international network. I consulted with allies and Microsoft executive ranks. One of those was my manager, who was my biggest advocate and sponsor at the time. He made sure that my performance excellence was seen by other Microsoft executives. And within 9 months of my search, I was offered the newly created role. I was the first person hired at Microsoft worldwide into this role as Customer Success Director. And the offer came with the fully funded relocation to the Netherlands. Yes, yay! Really happy to be here. So at the time, I didn't have the language for what was going on. I just knew that it was the most profound, riskiest, 180-degree strategic shift that I had ever made. But I knew that I had to make it. I had to make it in order to keep and stay aligned with my purpose, my why, my values, my priorities, and my personal mission to harness the power of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging to make positive change in the technology industry and possibly the world. Yeah, and also deciding to move to a completely different country and continent at the age of 50 years old was definitely my existential flexibility moment, okay? I hope that at this point that you guys understand that active listening, creating motivational energy and emotional agility, they are not just fancy words. They aren't soft skills. These things are hard to do, especially on a regular basis. And if you're able to do them intentionally, you can actually use them as powerful career-defining tools. So I want us to make a decision. Everybody in this room, do not call those soft skills. We're going to call those superpower skills from here on out. I'm living proof that if you are able to harness the power of those skills and practice them on a daily basis, that you can unleash your full potential and take your career to heights that you never dreamed of and places you never dreamed of. If somebody had asked me 6 years if I'd be standing on this stage right here with you guys in the Netherlands, I would say, you're crazy, that would never happen. So you guys have the ability to do that. You can and you will become exceptional and innovative leaders and communicators that personify courage, integrity, and resilience. And you will be able to inspire and shape your future, and not only your future, but inspire and shape the future of generations to come. Thank you.
I'm so impressed by your story, and without any slides, just right from the heart. Well done.
My 50-year-old brain still working. It's still working.
And how does it feel to be on the Fe+male Tech Heroes stage?
I'm so blessed. You guys, I've met so many people since I've been here, and everybody is friendly, but I can feel the ambition. I can feel the motivational energy. So, yes, I love it.
And how about the active listening?
The active listening.
Did they pass their exam?
I was watching to see how many people got their phones out. And I didn't see, doesn't mean that that you didn't, but you were able to do it without me seeing it. Let's just say it that way. Yeah.
Sorry, I created an Insta post.
Okay.
Is it allowed?
Okay, I'll let you get away with
And
that.
I saw a photo, yes.
Okay.
So thanks a lot. Again, are there questions?
Hi, my name is Colette and I work at ASML.
Yes.
Can you please put it close to
Yes,
the mic?
my name is Colette and I work at ASML. And if I hear your story, you came with a purpose to the Netherlands and also with a belief to change the world, I think. So what do you do in your daily work to achieve your goal?
Yeah. I have just recently, well, a couple of things I did before I left the U.S. I was a part of, we have an ERG, Employee Resource Group, for women at Microsoft, for blacks at Microsoft, for Hispanics at Microsoft. We have a lot for many communities. And what I did there was made sure that we had, I worked on professional development. So I connected many of the people who were maybe early in career or mid in career. A lot of times we get stuck. Would you guys agree? Sometimes we get stuck at a certain level in our career. And I was able to have a leadership coaching program that connected these people to folks that were vice presidents and above, senior vice presidents, executive vice presidents. So that was one thing I did. And I brought that to the Netherlands because my belief is that we have to look, it's not just about one particular group. Although, I'll be honest, I would like to see more people like myself at Microsoft Netherlands. Just so you guys know, and I think Microsoft is okay with me saying this, that I'm the only black woman manager at Microsoft Netherlands. In my mind, that should not be. And so I'm trying to do that, but also encourage allies. Also make people realize that we're in this together. We cannot do this by ourselves. So that's something else I'm working on right now, is getting more allyship within Microsoft Netherlands. Yes.
And I have one question.
Yes.
I have actually at this moment in my life exactly the same dream, but then in ASML.
Yeah. That's what you want to work
so
together?
My question to you, can you help me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I see a hand up there.
There's a question in the back. I need a little bit of help. So I'll just do the first bit and then someone does the rest.
So she's on the phone and she almost got the microphone on their head. That's how it works. Huh? Hi everybody, my name is Leila Prunjavrat. So when you see me, you see a white woman, but I'm also bicultural. And I'm very curious, how do you keep people who are from different countries in your companies? Because a lot of people can get the job, but how do you stay? Because when the environment isn't safe enough, isn't nice enough, and the culture doesn't change, how do we work together? So I think that's also a very important one that we haven't talked about this whole day.
Yes.
So because we'll get the job, but how do we stay working together?
Thank you. That's such a good question. And one of the things, yeah, good catch. You are so right. I believe we need to, and this is my personal belief, not necessarily the belief of Microsoft Corporation, just put that out there, but I believe that we need to get rid of this hypocritical niceness. And what I mean by that, Brene Brown, I don't know how many people know about Brene Brown? And one of the things she talks about is clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And we are not clear and kind enough in making sure that people know what's going on with us, how we feel. Do we feel like we belong? Do we feel inclusive? Are you acting that way? And I'm also of the belief that people like myself who are not afraid to stand out. I've stood out all my life, so I don't mind speaking up. And I think there's a saying in Dutch about, you know, your tree, if you're a tree and you might get cut off if you stick out. Well, you know, I probably have been cut off a couple times, but I just keep growing right back up, right? That's what the trees do. Yeah. So I try to encourage people, and that's why allyship is so important, because I think that we need to work more with people who perhaps are the majority, if I could use that term, to say, look, make this a safe environment, right? You have the agency, you have in many cases, the authority to make sure that people can open up and talk about what they're feeling, because we will never get anywhere if we don't acknowledge that these are problems. That's the first thing you do, is acknowledge it. So that's where I'm starting. I'm starting with the conversations on both sides, using my relationships with people who are perhaps in the majority, and let me just say, white Dutch men in many cases. I will say that, yes, and people who are in, you know, have the agency, and then also talking to other folks on the other end to encourage them, to make sure that they know that they have a friend in me. They can use their voice, and their voice is valued when they speak to me. So I think we need to do both. We need to get the allyship up and working, make it real and active, and not just saying, yeah, I'm an ally because I went to Female Tech Heroes. That's great. I think that's a great start. But now go back, take what you've learned, take what you've seen, and apply that in situations where you see people being marginalized. So that's where we need to start, but we have a lot more work to do. Yeah.
Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hilda. This is wonderful.
Give her again a big applause. Yes, allyship. It was also mentioned by Kimberly that allyship is so important to reach our mission. And that's exactly what's next on the program.
Yeah, exactly why we invited 4 Dutch men. And they're here. So
4 in a row. We invited you, so thanks a lot. Andy, Ed, Johan, and Marco, please come on stage.
Yeah. You didn't say we were white.
Yeah, exactly. White and old and bold and grey. Exactly.
What an intro.
So, I think this is the best intro you can get for a panel, right? I mean, well, thank you so much for being here.
Well, at least you didn't call us white.
So, Kimberly,
It is.
thank you so much for your talk. It really gave me goosebumps and a fantastic bridge to the topic we're going to talk about right now. Allyship, because they're very important, allies, to help us further. And in this case, we are looking at the men who support gender equality, promote inclusion, and create opportunities for others. So in this panel, we will discuss how male allies can help create a more inclusive and diverse environment. How do you do it? How do you create that safe place? And insights and perspectives on what it means to be an ally and how they're working to create an industry that fosters equality and diversity. So Marco Pieters is the Executive Vice President Business Line Application at ASML. Also interesting for you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll pick up the challenge.
Okay. Then we have Johan Veenstra, the CEO of Smart Photonics. Andy Leurling, founding partner of Lumo Labs. And last but not least, Ed Heerschap, the coordinator for the Holland Expat Center Living In program. Give them one more applause, please. So
So a quick round before we start. Before I asked you to this panel, did you consider yourself as a male ally?
Well, actually, to be really honest, I was not even familiar with the terminology. Nevertheless, when looking at the concept and especially the behavior aspect of that, I mean, it's important to see that if you want to help an individual, do it in the way they are being wanted to help, not the way I like to help them. And that's something that resonates with myself. So I think, didn't know the word, but I think the intention, yes.
Johan?
Not really, to be honest. But I think, I do believe, I'm a strong believer in diversity. And not necessarily just diversity in the certain, female-male sense of things, but, the whole culture diversity, minorities, disabled people, many aspects, right? I mean, there's minorities that need to be supported. So yes, I am a strong believer in diversity. Did I consider myself an ally? No, not really.
Andy?
Well, he stole my answer, so yes, I'm an ally. And I'm male, so I'm a male ally. But in the broader perspective, I would say for the die.
Okay, Ed?
I never thought of myself as a male ally, but I am building a more inclusive ecosystem, though I show it by doing, I try to. But I was totally surprised that you asked me for the panel.
Well, thank you for being here. So, Andy, let's go to you first, because when we talked before, you said, I'm not really a male ally, I'm more of a person ally. And when we didn't look at the numbers, so you are part of the investment fund Lumon Labs, and you invest significantly in female founders, 30%?
Depends on how you calculate it. So we have a total group of founders, male founders, female founders, and of them, there are 30% female. We did so far 13 investments with our fund, and even there it's higher because we have 7 of the 13 with female founders. So it's over 50% at this point, yes.
So this morning we also talked about investment funds and also female founders getting 1.7% of all funding. What do you do differently?
Yeah, that's a good question, and to be honest, I'm asked more and more this question, so I started to do some investigation. I think it's a few things, but one of them is there's research done by Harvard, and I really would recommend to have a look at it. It's about promotional and professional questions, and what the results are is that females, women, are asked professional questions most of the time, and males are asked promotional questions.
So questions like, what are the
positive
risks?
questions,
Yeah?
negative risk questions, and opportunity questions, promotional and professional. And most of the time, when I would ask a professional question, I would get a professional answer. And if I would ask a promotional question, I would get a promotional answer. And it's really hard, and I noticed it myself, that if somebody would ask me a professional question, a negative question, to swap it around into a positive answer. Yeah? And that's one of the things I've been really taking into account and look at what we do at our fund. And I think it's a bit because we are also a fund that is founded by entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurial, most of the time optimistic, promotional, that we ask those promotional questions to everybody, so to females and males. So I guess that's one of the answers. And of course, at one point, you have a particular threshold, because people look at did they invest in, who did they invest in, and if they see at one point a lot of females, I think the threshold will be so much lower to approach us.
But you didn't really search for them specifically, right?
No, and that's why I'm a person ally, because we just, and I understand that for instance, your companies, it's so much more complex, because we only look for one thing, the best entrepreneurs, and I don't care if they're male, female, which color they have, which gender, I don't care. I want to look for the right entrepreneurs.
It sounds really easy. Why is it so hard for the rest of the world to do this?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think if you look at and I'm only talking about investment funds now, because I know that ASML would be so much more complex. Most of the investment funds are founded or managed by people with a bank or a financial or consultancy background. And typically you are trained for years and years and years in the preventional questions. We are trained in the promotional questions as entrepreneurs. So I think this is really a thing. Another answer that I got this morning actually when we had our LPAC, so the advisory committee of our investors in our fund. And they said, we believe that it's also because this topic came up, of course, that we are very approachable. What you see is typically that VC funds, they build a fence and a gate and more, and wow, we are so important because we have the money. And we say differently, like we have money, but we need startups to invest in, otherwise we cannot do anything with the money. So I think that also being very approachable.
Marco, when we look at ASML, do you notice differences in the barriers women face and men face in the company?
Well, for myself, that's almost a difficult question to answer because I'm sure that female have a different experience in ASML than I had myself. So I also talked to some of my female colleagues, and I also got some confirmation actually stepping into this room. And although we have quite a lot of different nationalities, if you look to our population, it's very much still male-dominated work environment. And I think that also translates into a very frank and very direct style of communication. And that's something that's not appreciated by everyone. And especially, you can actually join that style, but it's also very difficult to do so. And that's where I think, and also heard from female colleagues, that they have difficulties with barriers because they're not being heard because of that communication style in that work environment. So I think that's something that's definitely, I think, recognized as a barrier. And I think it also requires us, the white males there, to be way more mindful of making sure that everyone in the room can speak up, also ask people to speak up, making sure you get all the ideas in the room and make sure that you also do the best for the whole team and the whole company. I think that's something that we are seen as a barrier, but I think also that's something where we need to raise our awareness on that.
Do you think it is possible to break such a strong culture?
I think so, yes. It's a change. I wouldn't say break, but it's also a change. Make people more aware of it. Also, what you see now, once people see the benefits of diversity in teams, you start discussing topics from a completely different angle, and also people start to appreciate it. And I think also there, for myself, I also try to set sometimes an example, and also by leading by example, that also, as I would say, makes the old stain bigger and try to spread it in a way, besides some of the other things that we are doing. But I think it can be changed. And I think also what you see now, I think the last couple of years we made some steps. We're not there by far, as I think also you heard today, but I think we can make small steps and start changing this.
Can you give an example of such a step?
Well, there's a couple of things if you see what we have been doing. So we have been trying to basically doing a lot of things internally, but also externally. If you look internally, they were looking at 3 things for people. First of all, try to inspire on a very leveled culture. Making sure we also have employee networks worldwide for community-based groups like female, share experience, discuss about the topics that they see. But also ask a lot of guest speakers to basically show up and create this awareness. Listen to the stories, as we just heard. I think there was a great example that those kind of guest speakers, they also trigger something. And I think we had it also on our International Women's Day. So that's the first part. Secondly is also try to attract more and also retain female talent. And I think it's a matter of not just attracting them, but also making sure they stay. I think was one of the questions.
Exactly.
Show that people are valued. Support them by feedback, but also grow them. And I think that's still a challenge that we have. So also there, we try to, in terms of recruitment, do some storytelling from our female colleagues to say, this is the journey I had, and also try to attract talent with that. But it also means that we're also trying to, working on leadership programs to fill the pipeline on talent and female talent. And I think one of the other things, one of the HR tools we have is also make sure that all our high potentials have a development plan. Make sure that we can support them, mentor them where needed. And I think last but not least also is stimulate and promote and also push management leadership to demonstrate and role model to increase basically the inclusion culture with their teams. I think that in itself is very powerful.
Do you think it needs a new kind of leadership?
I would say it's a twist, addition to it. I think we tried also to invest quite a lot in training, make people aware, handing people tools to be more an inclusive leader. And that's not something that happens only at the top. It should happen at all levels. And if we do that, I think then we can also get to a next level of leadership that is more inclusive than we have been in the past.
And if we talk about that's creating that safe place, that psychological safety, what do you think leaders and need to do for their team?
I think for me, it's a lot personally about leading by example. I think it's about the behavior that we want to see displayed. If I don't show the correct behavior, I cannot ask my team to do that. So I need to show the right behavior, but also do the opposite. If I see destructive behavior, address it. Address it in a way where, at the spot, but also later on, have a discussion with the source. Why did it happen? Was it the intent? Was it not the intent? And try to also explain why I did something in that meeting. I said, we have to stop this, and why it was not in line with the values that I see. So I think that's important. And then, especially where I also had some cases in the past where this happened to some of our female colleagues, also afterwards connect to them, is that something, how did you experience that? Do you want to be helped? Can I help you? And if so, in which way? I think that's I think it's very important for ourselves to show this. And I think by that, we make small steps at a time, one at a time.
Ed, how do you look at this?
I have a little bit of a different opinion about leadership. Why limit yourself to your own company? Why not also look into the families of your workers and see how their spouses are doing? And look at the bigger picture. I try to tell it at every table, of course. Because if you are focusing on the bigger picture, and you are focusing on those universal needs, I want to belong, I want to matter, you are retaining your talent from the first moment on. And it's not, I don't try to talk about retention of talent, I try to ask myself, how can I help you on a very personal level? So I imagine a future, and I see a lot of good things happening. I imagine a future where the big tech companies, for the first hires, also take an interest in the onboarding of the family. Yes. Not only onboarding of the first hire within the company, but onboarding of the family in the region. And then you are really standing out as an employer, and you add so much to all the things that we all already have to offer as a region. I can talk for days, you have to stop me sometimes.
I'm fully on board. I think also one of the activities we do outside the company is indeed connecting to spouses of our expat employees in order for exact that purpose. So fully with you, yes. Good point, good point.
Hey, Johan, you are the CEO of a fast-growing company, Smart Photonics. How important is diversity on your company's agenda?
Extremely important, and again, from the two aspects, right? I mean, the broader perspective of diversity. I mean, 3 years ago, we were hiring about 20-25% foreigners. This year, it's 75%, actually. So it's growing rapidly in terms of foreigners. The number of nationalities grows quickly, so the way we interact with each other sometimes needs to be readjusted, needs to be looked at. The openness about cultures has to be there. So it's extremely important for us to have these people fit in. It's also interesting to have people, we hired a couple also into the company, and recently also one of the guys came over from Asia all the way, and now his wife is working for us as well. So I think that's actually, and it's to our benefit and to theirs. So I hope that retaining in that case is not going to be a problem at all. So it's extremely important because in the end, also when you look at it, what does it bring us? I mean, to have more diversity in the room actually makes decisions more better. Right? You have more views on things, you have other views on things. We all look differently at a complex problem because we have complex problems every day. And the diversity and the way you look at it in a different way actually brings you a better decision.
So you really see the benefits and you act on it. And when talking about that inclusive environment, also, you said we're trying to include spouses as well. What else do you do to create that inclusive environment in the company?
So there's small stuff you can do, right? I mean, so we do gender neutral vacancy text is something we pay attention to. We try to have at least one female tech in every interview loop that we do, because people look at it in a different way. We, if you think about, that's all about hiring, right? I mean, one of the things we do also, and that maybe is not necessarily for females, but what I do notice is that females typically have, they negotiate less when they come into the company. So what we do every year is actually look at our salary house compared to, no new hires versus old hires, and we actually are in a, no CAO, so you can correct people. And you look at it, and that actually, I think, tends to be in the advantage of the ladies that came in later because they didn't negotiate. And what I strongly believe in, and I worked 5 years for Amazon, and they did this to the extreme, is you're paying the role, not the person. In the Netherlands, we have a tendency to look at people and say, you had 20 years of experience in this, so you need to be more paid than this person that just came. That's not the way you should look at it. You should look at what is this person doing. Are they doing the same role? Then they actually earn the same thing. So that's the kind of thing we do as well. And I think that's also something that in the end benefits newcomers and female versus male, because you no longer look from the role point of view. Right.
And what role do you see for yourself as the CEO in this?
Yeah, I think it's I try to be down to earth as much as I can, but I also have, being a CEO for a while already. I mean, I realize that actually you need to be a role model every single minute, every single time of the day, right? I mean, the people look at me and I can say many things. I can say stuff here, I can say stuff in all hands, but in the end, it comes down to what people see me do. At the right time, at the right place. If there's stuff happening inside your organization that actually goes from the cultural point of view and people clash on a cultural level, I act, I react, sometimes in a one-to-one, sometimes in a group, because I think teaching is actually more important in the group, and sometimes even in the larger company. In an all hands, I make a point in the all hands, because I strongly believe that we are getting stronger with different cultures on board.
Marco, if we look at male allyship, what role can the male ally specifically play also in creating that inclusive environment?
So I think it's indeed being the role model. I think that's very important. Show the right behavior, but I think also mentorship, as was mentioned. I think it's at some point in the career you can always be a mentor for whatever reason and guide people, but also always in a way where, how do you want to be helped? Because I can have all kind of idea, how can I help people? Do it with my kids, it doesn't always work out that great. So yeah, you have to also, when being a mentor, listen to how people want to be helped. Would see direction, etc. And I think that's something as an ally you can also do. And of course, also with your colleagues, discuss that. Hey, I'm mentoring not this person, but this case, and look what's happening. Do we have this? Is this an issue that we see in our company? Is that something that we should be doing different as a company? So also that is about individuals, but also then taking it back to the organization again.
Andy, how do you do this?
Well, first of all, I look at persons and everything what is said, role models and lead by example. I think that all goes. And looking at persons, we are all different. We are different. We are different. And then you can start looking at the differences, or you can start looking at what we do have in common. And if you do that first, then you see that you have a big list that you have in common, and you don't have to discuss about that anymore. It gives a feeling of bonding, and then you only discuss the things that you are not aligned in. I think that's one step which would work. On the other hand, what I would love to say, we are hopefully investing in the new ASMLs of these worlds. Yeah, so it's really from the start that we bring in the new cultures. So it's not shifting cultures, it's creating culture. And by having diverse teams from the start, we do hope, of course, that will grow into the company. And I believe that not the politicians are the future leaders, they are guiders. Yeah, what you mentioned, it's the new founders, the founders team, the entrepreneurs, who are the new leaders, and we should educate them, create awareness, because that's not a big word, creating awareness that we are different, but that we can work together. That they bring that to the homes, and I really believe that if I'm a founder and if I am the leader of the pack, and I give good examples, that the people will bring that to their homes, that they will bring that to the children, and that we can create a better society in that sense. It should start from the people.
Ed, if I look at your work, it seems like allyship comes really natural to you. Is that true?
Yeah, that's kind of personal. I lived in Belgium for 5 years with an Australian wife, and I could completely relate to what distance means to a young family. My then father-in-law lived in Sydney, and my wife then at the time was crying when we came into the vicinity of an airport all the time. So she needed to say goodbye too many times. That's why I try to also understand what people face who are so brave to leave everything behind and start from scratch. I think it's my role and my responsibility to invite everyone in that ecosystem to make that journey a little bit more smooth. So what can we do? And we only have to take baby steps, because with all of us we make a giant leap. And I always say, if we do that, if we have that inclusive mindset and only ask how can I help, we can be the most important region in the world as Brainport. So we do have, what I already said, we have so much to offer already.
And what are those baby steps?
Just the question, how can I help? Look broader than every spouse I speak to says to me, I took an uninformed decision. A baby step and a giant step at the same time might also be, in the recruitment phase, to have a proper conversation with the spouse. Not only the question, what does your wife think about it, but think about her perspective as well, mostly her, because that's in many cases it's a woman, because the first hire has a perspective. I'm going to build my future at ASML, for instance. But the spouse says, I expect to have a job within 6 months, and then reality strikes, because it's not happening. And what they need to be prepared more and more, so make more use of that pre-boarding phase to prepare people for how this environment looks like. Because applying in the Netherlands is something different, or networking in the Netherlands is something different than all other countries in the world. So educate people as soon as you can. And also, I came to thought of it this morning, recruitment, of course, is kind of a perverted system, in my opinion. People get a fee because they bring people in. Cut the fee in half and give the rest of the fee after 2 years. And then you will see that people will put more focus on the bigger picture and what does it mean for a family to start from scratch.
So you do a lot of work in this with the Women for Women program. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program and also the results you've seen?
What we see is that we want to put inclusion into practice. So we use local ambassadors from everywhere around, from companies, from government and from knowledge institutions, as a mentor for an international spouse. And we put the spouse in tribes, so groups with similar distance to the labor market, and suddenly people discover I'm not alone. I do have a match with an ambassador. Because of the tribe I'm in, I'm also close to the ambassador of my peer. And with the help of a program that makes the spouses market ready, they, of course, gain confidence in making those next steps. Because after the honeymoon phase, the first 6 months, life can be pretty dark. Because then you start applying, you don't know what to do, and you get rejection after rejection, and suddenly you think it's my fault. We want to fight that idea, and we want to, of course, make the most of sisterhood and solidarity. And we also want to put focus on the receiving end. How can SME companies, because 60% of our female spouses have a non-tech background, how can we make all those Brabant and Dutch companies aware about the talent pool that's there to use? Yeah. They have an unexpected USP. They already have a house. You can hire them for local salaries, and they start the integration already. So for a company, it's even more secure to use a local international talent than going abroad.
How do you look at the role of communities? You talked about it a little bit already, Marco. How do you look at the role of communities and tribes also in creating a place where everyone feels like they belong?
I think it's a very powerful instrument. I think also there we have been trying to invest also, for instance, in to elevate the STEM promotion and also education with female professionals in the Brainport area, but also in the US with some strategic partnerships. And I think that's is something where you do see the benefits coming from. So in the US, we do it with the Society of Women Engineering. I think in Europe, okay, we know we're working together with Eindhoven University, TU Delft, Fontes, Avans. I think there you really see that those strategic partnerships, they also pay off. And especially I think the example that Ed gives are very valuable ones.
I think it's time for some questions from the audience. Oh, I already see a hand, of course, in the back, Hilde. It's in the back, yeah.
All the way.
It's all the way, oh, also closer. Yes, yeah, we do it like this. We go towards you. Yeah.
Then I start over here.
Thank you. So I have actually two questions. The first one, I have it for Andy. It's how do you, as a venture capital, balance inclusion, but at the same time the quest for like excellency into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, good question. The answer is that we are the largest, well, one of the answers is that we are the largest investment fund in AI in the Netherlands. If you look at AI, there's, of course, even more of a need than in most other industries to have diverse groups. And that's what we are aiming for. So if we look at our funnel, all the decks that we get, and the decks that we select to invest in, you see that the ratio is not in balance in favor of female. No, that's not true. In favor of diverse teams, let's put it that way. Does that answer your first question?
I would like you to a little bit elaborate it more in the sense of like, of course, as a venture capital, you're trying to get the best out of there. But at the same time, you have to be conscious like of minority, especially into the tech industry. So do you have in mind, for example, policies for your company which can deal with this dilemma?
We really are looking at the best teams. So we really are looking at the best entrepreneurs, the best teams, and those are for us persons.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that having said that, I have to say, what we do see, again, I repeat, the diverse teams are the best performing teams in the future technologies that we have ongoing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So now my last question for all of the male allies there is like, as male allies, how do you create an ecosystem of male allies?
That's a great question. How can we make more? Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it starts with actually realizing you are one.
Exactly, that was the first point, I think.
First step, yeah.
It's a good question. We haven't done that yet, I think.
Well, how do we encourage more men to become allies? I mean, it can start with active listening, as we heard. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like a very big thing, right?
No. I think it all starts with awareness. Like that we are, as male, that we are aware that we all have other perspectives. A female approaches things from another angle than we do. People from, we have hired an Ethiopian analyst, and everybody thinks that we hired her because that's really what we get, because she is a lady of color. Everybody forgets that she has 2 MBAs in finance and in economics, cum laude. So that's why we hired her, you know. So we have to raise the awareness first that we are different. She looks from a total different perspective to things, and there again, sometimes when I'm tired and I go too fast, and I tend to run past it and say, oh no, and then I have to pull myself back, aware, okay, no, this is a valuable input from a total different angle, which comes to a better solution. And I think really it's about that, and spreading the word about that awareness.
Yeah, no, I'd really like to connect your first and second question as well, right? Because how do you create more male allies? I mean, we like to see results. We like to see things, you know. And that's, first question sort of suggests that, putting minorities into a team may not necessarily make it more effective. Actually changing it around, realizing and making male allies realize that actually you get better results with more diversity, with more variance around the table is actually the way to make them a male ally.
Yep.
Right? Realization that it actually improves.
Ed?
I totally believe that it's also about awareness. When you make people aware about all the challenges that people face, then a certain level of empathy starts. And only when people become empathetic, you can call for action. So that's the normal journey you need to go. And next to that, of course, we focus on, that's our strategy, we focus on early adopters. People are already there. Of course, with those early adopters, you make the most progress.
Exactly.
Marco?
Yeah, the empathy is there, but also show that people can actually make a difference. So as an ally, show this is what we've done, this is what you can do. I think that also basically spreads the old saying again, and that's baby steps. Just show what you can do, recognize the value, get the empathy there, and show what you can do. And those will be small steps, but one at a time.
There are a few male allies in the room as well. Do we also have some tips how to start, maybe?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Yeah?
No, no, it's a bit of promotion. And Kimberly, Microsoft will be the first client, is the first client. We invested in Enliven, and they are a company that specialized on empathy training, so on the soft skills. They started in the social domain, and they came to us and they said, okay, very interesting, though the business case, the scaling model is a bit hard. Come up with business cases. So they come up with gender equality. That's the one they did together with Microsoft, but it's open for everybody. But also bullying at work, gender equality, and sexual harassment. The platform will be launched in June 30, I believe, by heart.
You can experience.
And what you do is that you experience, it's a platform, but you experience in an initial VR experience the other side. So instead of that I'm a man, I'm a woman. Yeah. Instead of that I am, that's for the social domain, that I'm disabled. And I had the director of innovation of the Ministry of Economic Affairs last week here, and she said I hired somebody who's disabled, and I didn't continue the contract because we couldn't help her. And she said, now I have had this experience, and actually we always ask, how can I help, but we ask the wrong questions because it's the awareness shift, like, okay, this is how the other perspective.
Someone else. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's not like a process, oh, now the world has changed, but that's the trigger to change, and that's why then the platform will bring you in nuggets to the eventual change.
Very interesting.
And now nowadays, for me, it's an easy sell. This is the easiest sell. What I believe in is that everybody at Microsoft who onboards, at every company that I'm with, if you onboard, we are trained. If you go to ISML, how many trainings do they have to go before they can go into ASML security training? And then I say, hey, okay, why not empathy training? We should have all empathy training. And to be honest, I think the schools in that perspective maybe not have too much of budgets, because I think it should be taught in schools. But we as companies, and that's why we invest in that company, we as organizations, we do have the budget, and we can start from the company as onboarding and slowly get everybody through that system and see and realize how it is from the other perspective. And believe me, I've done it. You get another perspective. You really start changing.
Marco, interesting?
I will sign up for it. I will try myself, yes.
Okay. Another question. We're also going to the back with the mic because I promised.
No escape.
Where is the microphone? Oh, Hilde. It's all in the back. At Kim.
Yes. Oh. Okay. I go there if you can help me by catching it and yeah.
Almost.
I'm good in catching. Come from India. Actually, I wanted to comment on the question which was asked on ASML allies or male allies in tech companies. I think I would also like to challenge us ladies to see the good faith from men as well, because if you look back, actually, in my personal career, I come from ASML, there are 3 male people who actually helped. So I think it's also our responsibilities is to see that there are also good faith in men who also want to lift you up. And I think the same thing is also applicable to us as ladies to lift each other as well. And that's a different perspective to what we are discussing here, because I think ladies can also lift ladies much more.
Great addition. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victor. I first want to compliment the organization for this great show here. This is really good. Thank you. And next, I think it's bridging really what it says here from diversity to inclusion. And when I hear it too, from stories from the gentlemen here which are also man allies, which I also am, I think, is how are we going to bridge the gap between diversity and inclusion? And I listened a lot around today and I asked questions and I thought, okay, maybe it's like what Andy did, is giving a handshake and giving something, okay, how could this work? And I think that's what we are all might be looking for. I don't have wisdom in mind for all things, but I have the question about gem cultures. It's the book from Janneke Kramer. I don't know if anybody knows it. It's really a good handshake or let's say a code rack to implement this gap. I don't know if anybody knows that. From a corporate perspective, maybe from MIT Sloan, the value principles model, which actually is a rephrasing with diversity and inclusion, the shared beliefs and the shared values in your organization, which might be handy. So one on the corporate level, one on the more operational tactical level, how to implement it, because that's what I sense that will be needed to bridge all the differences that we can see in organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you give the mic to the back? We're finally there, Kim. No, not yet. Yes.
Well, we got so much good input on the way in. Hi, I'm Kim Rijmakers. So my question is maybe turning it a little bit on its head, in the sense that we're seeing a lot of research right now coming out that, especially among the youth and the younger professionals, that there's actually a lot of resistance to making space or being a male ally, more in the sense because there's this fear that they've lost their space. So how do we communicate to be honest, I'm raising a son and a daughter, so how do I communicate that to my daughter she can be anything she wants, but not in a way that all of a sudden says to my son, guess what, your space has been taken in. And I know it's a logical answer, it's not true, because you've got, there's a, how do you call it, sense of, you've always had a privilege. However, if we're not addressing that, I'm trying to translate for some reason at the same time. If we're not with the weerstand, the resistance, then how do we make sure that the generations that come up are doing better than what we are doing right now?
Maybe also nice to make a referral to the cake. It's not one pie. We all get a pie. We don't have to get a piece of the pie, and if I get a piece, you won't. We can all have our own pies. Maybe is that what you mean as well?
Well, yeah, but I think if we're seeing that under the younger generations, they're actually against almost the idea of equality and diversity, because it means that they're losing, they feel like they're losing their spot. And I'm really talking probably about more the men, sorry. But how do we communicate that in such a way that they're not losing their spot, but that everyone is now getting a seat at the table, in a sense, when there wasn't a seat at the table before?
Well, for me, it starts right there at home. I have 2 boys, 2 girls, and the girls can become whatever they want, and I tell that to the girls, to the boys as well. So already in a very early stage, they treat each other as equals. And also, again, if you see behavior that's not there, explain why it's not the right behavior. So that's what I do myself, indeed. But I think I haven't seen it as you said, but I know studies are out there. But for me, it's already start very early in conveying the message on inclusion and equality.
Yeah, if you have a privileged position now and you take it away to make more equality, then that shouldn't make you feel worse off, right? I mean, you're actually balancing things more. In the tech world, I mean, I think I heard some economists say the other week that we will be in a drought period for the next 30 years in terms of looking for tech talent. So that's not even, everybody getting a pie, but the pie is becoming from this size to that size, and there's plenty of opportunity. So I think I'm not that worried that male will suddenly feel less off.
No, of course.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More jobs, more ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And I always say I will be the first one to bring up a network for white men who feel neglected. I don't think it's necessary yet. No. Give them a very big applause, our male allies. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. There's one more thing we have to do.
Yeah, a special closure.
Yes.
Because we mentioned the good cause in the beginning during the opening of this conference, and you did this great interview with the VHTO. So please, ladies, Rian
and Sahar,
please come on stage.
Join us on stage. Give them a very big applause. So for those of you who tuned in this afternoon, the VHTO is an expertise center and a Dutch foundation that raises a lot of awareness about gender equality and empowering that in engineering, IT and STEM. They also bring role models to schools. And this year, a significant amount of our ticket sales, thanks to you, will go to the VHTO. And Sahar, maybe you can explain what you want to do with the donation.
Well, what we really need the donation for is to make sure that all you fantastic role models can go to schools and share your experience with the next generation, showing to girls and other underrepresented groups what a career in technology looks like, what they can become, and also help break stereotypes among boys, and that's very important, and we need the funding to be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, and by you being here today, you supported this good cause. So I think, Ingeloe, it's time to announce the amount.
Yeah, maybe we need a drum roll like the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay, it's an amount of 6,750 euros.
So happy about this. I mean, just getting this, but also the support that you give us, and just the sense of community that we get from here. It's just so incredibly. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Super.
Okay, time for the last announcement.
The last announcement.
We have some partnerships, a new website.
Yeah, so we're partnering in the coming time. We're also looking for new partners to collaborate with us on Fe+male Tech Heroes to bring the mission even further. So if you're curious, contact us about that. And there's also coming to be a new website with job opportunities for a lot of women and diversity. A lot of people in tech, we know the talent is needed. So we're also going to try to add a little value there.
It's all in preparation, and within a few years, sorry.
We'll be back in a few years, so yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah.
A few weeks. We will announce.
Exactly.
So my head is full.
You're ready for the bit of
I'm ready for some party, some music, some food.
Me too.
And it's time to thank you all.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.